Okay, we're live. So, pardon the Dank, we're live with Capt420. How's it going?
We're doing great. We're outside on a rooftop dispensary in Bangkok.
Yeah, I was gonna say
It's
it's pretty exotic looking building behind you.
yeah, we're at Terrific Tuesdays. I picked up a little bit of their flour to try during the show. It's super diesel.
Super diesel. That's awesome. We can get that over there.
Yeah,
Um, does it have any? Are you able to look at it before you bought it, or is everything pre sealed?
it came out of a jar in a refrigerator.
I see.
It's all indoor grown, but it smells really good. So we'll
Can you
be enjoying that
show
during
one of those
this.
again?
So it's kind of like a review.
Yeah. Can you show one of those nugs again?
Yes. I only got a gram because
Yeah. I understand you. I understand you. I'm not asking you to hold up a whole grapevine or nothing. Oh, cool. Yeah. You going to how are you going to consume that in a J or
I always roll a joint.
nice?
I prefer rolling a joint because it allows my palate to get the full flavor.
Yeah, you can get the flavor, the dry pull and the dry pull flavor, kind of the flavor, and as it burns and the oil starts to you know gather up,
And
change.
I prefer my smoke that way. I like taking time to break it apart, put it in a grinder, grind it up, smell what it smells like when it comes out of the grinder, and then take that dry hit and then see if it's a sesquiterpene or a monoterpene. Because we're in the age of fruits and candies.
Yeah, we I don't I hope that's not forever though. I don't know. Um,
Well,
because some of those high volatile things like the cinnamon and like the skunks and stuff. I want that again. But I definitely I like limeade and pinene and stuff myself. I'm really into like lime and pines and fuels, and the candy is like it's good, but like you need more of it right away.
I started doing genetics in the 90s, and I was mainly going after things that helped me medically. Okay.
Hmm.
In 1994, I fell off the back of a scaffolding. I'm a mason by trade. So I fell off the back of the scaffolding. It changed my life completely. It was 16 days after my 23rd birthday, and they refused to give me narcotic pain medication.
Why would they do that
Okay.
with such a substantial?
Because I was so young.
Hmm.
They didn't want to put me on heavy narcotic medication so young.
So what was the alternative for them?
The alternative was Celebrex and all these analgesic pain medications, which are just basically a, a,
Like a psychological
a
thing?
a psychological type medication.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a psychological narcotic. No, it's not. Not when you're dealing with nerve damage and nerve pain.
Um,
So to so to I took these pills and they ended up messing up my stomach, giving me bad side effects. And then I found cannabis again. And I found that certain strains of cannabis helped me medically.
How were you able to find it at that time? Just off the street, friends, or was there access anywhere?
Well, you know, I'm a deadhead, so I was able to get cannabis from around the country and find out, hey, this little bit more of a broadleaf plant, which we know is indica, worked for me. The sativa gave me the high, but it didn't relieve the pain. So it came down to I saved up enough money. I got my passport. And in the mid 90s, I joined a friend who had gone to Amsterdam before. And I went to Amsterdam with him. And I met this gentleman, Neville, at Sensi Seed Bank. And me and Neville started talking about my medical conditions and how cannabis helped me more than these pills that were being pushed on me. And that's when I found that certain strains from Afghanistan, Pakistan actually had a THC, but also had CBD in them. So it was an entourage effect with the CBD and the THC that was helping me cope with my pain.
So they were doing testing at that time then, like in their coffee shops.
Yes. But
so,
Neville's the one that pointed out that, hey, you know, the strains that seem to work for you the best seem to come from Afghanistan, Pakistan area. Not as much as the tropical strains, which are the fruits and the berry terps, the candy terps, as we would call them today.
So did you wind up buying some seeds or anything?
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember what they were?
That was the thing, you know. At that time, Amsterdam was running on the guilder. And the guilder was 2.34 American dollars to one guilder. So the seed packs were 100 to 150 guilders for 10 to 15 seeds of Sensi seeds and Paradise seeds. So, you know, we're paying $300, basically $250, $300 for 10 seeds back in the 90s.
Wow, that's incredible. And those were those regs or FIMs, or what were those?
Regulars.
Regulars.
This is before the feminized seeds kind of screwed up the market.
Do you remember what strains you got back then?
Oh, yeah. We bought NL5 Haze. We bought Afghani. And later on, in 98, we ended up picking up the Sensi Star. We only had basically enough money to buy 5 packs of seeds. Because, you know, you're looking at 5 packs of seeds and you're looking at $1,200-$1,500 at that time.
Yeah, that's incredible. I didn't realize it was that kind of money.
Yes.
Wow. No, that's just because the exchange rate was so bad with the American dollar at the time?
Exactly. Now, when I went back over and they started to go from the guilder to the euro, when that conversion happened, it made it a lot more affordable for
Yeah,
us to buy
prepared.
seeds, because all of a sudden it took things, and instead of being $100, it made it like $30 in the conversion.
Yeah.
But that wasn't until, the conversion of the guilder going into the euro.
Hmm. Cincy Star. Huh? That's good. The NL5, and so what'd you do? You wind up going back home and running those, or
We ran them and we made more seeds.
like others?
Like anybody, hey, we got the Holy Grail, we got seeds. And at this time, you just couldn't go find seeds here in the United States that had provenance.
No, you had, everything was a bag seed.
Exactly. So we would get the seeds, and then we would do a pollination. We would pick a male, a strong one, and my selections came from talking with Neville and other breeders about how to select the males, how to select the females. You know, uh, back in the day, when you got a pack of seeds, you had maybe a couple plants that were short and a couple plants that were maybe tall, but they were uniform.
Like you would only have those two variations. You know.
Yeah, because we were only taking, the hybrids back then were only, okay, we took an Afghani and we took this strain.
Yeah,
So
made your own F1.
you were getting expressions from the two plants. Not like today where everything is mixed up and you get all different expressions.
Well, a lot of the things of today is that things that people are select. I'm not saying that they're intentionally doing it, but a lot of the things that they're selecting to breed with. The other thing that the other side of the coin that they're selecting to breed too, a lot of those things have a lot of common genetics in them now, right? Because the pool has been so muddied up, basically. You know.
I noticed this in Amsterdam in about 2004, 2005, where you started to see a lot of Kush being dominant. So they started bottlenecking then. And then everybody didn't want to put in the work to hunt through the seeds. So what did they start producing? Feminized seeds. Well, with feminized seeds, the problem is you're only getting the female part of the genetics.
Yeah, you only get half the alleles. You only get the female alleles. There's no male alleles, so not
Exactly.
doesn't to me. I don't think it's as stable in my mind of thinking.
No. So you're missing out on maybe what the female or the male part of the plant is offering. And
Yeah.
sometimes in my breeding, I find that, hey, what I'm looking for is actually contributed from the male plant.
Yeah, very much. A lot of times, like a lot of times, the structure, the vigor, the health, resistance to pests, mildew, all those things. It's like a lot of times I find that in the male, in the male line side of the genetic. I mean, if it was in the female, why would it not be in your male necessarily?
Exactly. And, this is a time when Sensimelia was at a premium. We were able to get $400 an ounce for seedless cannabis. And over the past 10 years, every time I put a bud into a grinder, I grind it very gently because I don't want to bust a seed. And I'm finding a lot of these genetics out there today, and I don't know why it's acceptable, but we have premature seeds, immature seeds
Like you're
in
finding
our cannabis.
You're finding that in the commercial bud?
I'm finding it in a lot of things out there, especially all these S1s.
Oh, I don't fuck with S1s. I see. I'm not. I don't know. Maybe it's just my like line of thinking, but I've never really been in the feminized seeds. I haven't been in the reversals. Haven't done the auto thing.
You're just like me. I want something that has a male and a female side to it.
And also, like, I'm not saying I'm against it. I just not the way I breed. I breed with living males. I don't collect the pollen and dust it on there. I like living males in the room.
Now, I can see where, selfing a plant comes into the genetics to possibly save and preserve a strain. Say you have a clone only.
And like be able to use it later. I like the idea. It's just not the way that, I don't know. I just think that like the live pollen is like it says it's most healthiest, stablest, it's ready to boom, it wants to go.
Well, I'm looking at like a preservation. You got this clone only, and it's been a clone like Lemon G from Ohio. I received that clone in 2000. There has never been seeds from it. But to be able to keep that plant, we have to self it. And that way we can kind of preserve the genetic makeup of it. But it takes work.
Yeah.
You have to put those seeds in.
I've seen, I have had some S1s before, like from like Humboldt CSI, and they were completely stable. I ran them. I just myself didn't breed into it. But you're doing preservation, like you're going to lose that if you don't do this. And so
exactly,
I understand,
But we also understand that we're missing the male side of the plant.
Mm-hmm.
But to keep that plant alive, you do an S1.
Yeah.
Now, in my breeding,
an S1 is not going to also be 100% representation of mom either, though. It's going to be close. Might look identical and everything, but
no, you're going to get representation
of a self plant.
You're going to get representatives of the grandparents.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, so anyways, continue. Go ahead.
So my breeding went towards, just basically my selection of, okay, this male puts out a lot of triclones. It has the structure that I want. It has a closer internode structure. Because we're growing indoors, we don't want lanky-ass plants. We can't grow lanky-ass plants. We're limited on space. So it kind of said, okay, we have this male. It's popping out a lot of triclones on it. The internode structure is short. And then we have this special female because, we flower out everything before we actually do the seeds. You take your clone, you save the plant, and you go through and you make the selection. And then you find a winner out of that pack. And then we would make a seed increase that way.
And how far were you taking these things, or what exactly were you looking for?
I was taking them to F2 because I figure, F1 is okay, but when you get to F2, you start to unlock the recessive traits.
And you were doing this. You did this to the Afghani and the Northern Lights.
We did this to the Afghani, to the NL5 Haze. We did this to the Ortega. We did this to the Sensi Star that came out of Paradise Seeds. Because basically we spent $250 on a pack of seeds, and, we wanted to make more of them because we couldn't just jump on a plane and go back to Amsterdam because that was $2,000 a trip.
Yeah, plus your expensive seats.
Yeah.
And
so,
they're more stable,
And it's not like we had a bunch of money. We saved up all year to make this one trip.
Yeah, it's an expensive trip. I haven't even made it myself. I've thought about it, but it's like every time something else comes up, or I'm like, I can just go to Canada.
Well, in 2000, 2000 to 2003, the airline actually dropped their prices to Amsterdam, and I was able to fly from Cleveland to LaGuardia to Amsterdam, KLM, for basically $420 round trip.
Yeah, and that's crazy because I've spent that amount to fly from Seattle to Detroit round trip.
Yeah, I know. I spent $1,100, $1,200 round trip from Cleveland to Bangkok just to get here to Thailand now. But in 2004, the prices came down to the point where, oh, wow, for $400, $420, I can go to Amsterdam.
Yeah, that's fucking
so
awesome. All you have to do is have your passport and you can go.
Exactly. So I got locked into doing clone production for somebody in Ohio, and their restrictions on me was I couldn't go to music festivals. I couldn't be out in the public like I was because, I had joined Normal and I was working with Normal. They said you have to leave all that aside, but, we need 250 clones a week every 10 days, and we'll pay you X amount. So I stopped all my fun life and kind of just went into my basement at that point.
Christoph says good morning to you.
Cheers, Christoph. Hope you're doing well over there in Europe. And so I kind of stayed out of the cannabis scene for about a year and a half. But then after this thing went through and the deal was done and the operation was shut down, I was left off with all this money. And hey, trips to Amsterdam were $400 a trip. So every couple months, instead of saying, oh, well, why should I go on vacation and spend $1,000 here in the States when I can take $1,000 and go spend 2-3 weeks in Amsterdam and be where the cannabis scene is really going? because here it was still underground.
Yeah. So yeah, because at that time you could go to several coffee shops, right? And they would have a menu, and
And I loved hash. And in Amsterdam, you had a plethora of hash to choose from.
yeah, tell me about it. I've never been, so
Oh, when we first started off, you had the black Afghani, then you had the Milana creams. You had different layers, different types of quality of hash
I
at
mean, yeah,
that
because
time.
I've been told by some friends that went about the blonde and blonde was it blonde from one place, red Lebanese, and then like different grades, right? Like different stars. And,
Yeah, and you could go to the different shops and they would have different hookups. So you would end up going anywhere from, you know, $3, $4 a gram to $10 a gram for like the Milana cream, which was basically goo in your pocket once it heated up.
it was a blonde color, or
This was more of a black blonde.
oh, a darker.
A lot of it darker color because a lot of it oxidizes
I see.
at that time because it was taking a couple months to get from point A to B.
Yeah.
It's not like today where you can jump on a plane and have a couple kilos
Yeah, and this
in 24 hours.
medical had like pseudo. They do the try to simulate the star thing, right? But I don't think it's anything quite like what Amsterdam had. Um, I mean,
But let's kind of
Amsterdam was buying the best stuff in the world at the time.
yeah, let's kind of backtrack here. Okay, so in 1994, I had this accident, and they fed me all these pills that weren't working for me. And then I found cannabis again, and then I found that certain strains of cannabis worked for my medical conditions. They didn't take away the pain, but what they allowed me to do was allowed my mind to separate the pain so I can go about and function throughout the day.
Did you
And
figure
that's
this
when
out before? Did you figure this out just before you had gotten the seeds, or is this?
No, this was me going to Amsterdam and sitting down with Neville and Neville putting out 15, 20 different strains in front of me and having me sit there over a couple days and smoking them to figure out which ones affected me the best. And that's when we narrowed it.
And at that time, you guys discovered that anything that was like more of a tropical or something with fruit.
The fruity types gave me a nice head high. It was an energetic high, but it wasn't doing anything for me medically. And the strains that were more narcotic medically for me, we found out came from Afghanistan, Pakistan, more from the hash plant type. And
which makes sense with the information we know now.
Yeah. And now that all this information comes out, is those plants actually had CBDs in them.
Probably had some CBD and some other CTC, maybe some other cannabinoids, but yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And that's something that, we're just now cracking because we haven't been able to test and do research and find out that, hey, THCV-A or THCV helps with cancer. CBDG and CBDN and stuff like that. We
Fuck.
didn't know
Give
about
me,
that.
give me, give me some THCV with something that has high terpenoline, and fuck, I'm racing. You know.
But back then, we didn't have the studies or anything like that,
Yeah.
because everything it was gatekept. Maybe they had that research in Israel, but it wasn't being.
Israel was definitely they were definitely up on their shit early. You know. Um, I don't know if they had. I don't know what they had. We still don't know what they have.
It's because nothing has been released.
It's they
They
don't. It
have.
doesn't seem like they share information with us like that. You know.
Well, it's because of our government and because of big business and big pharmaceutical. The more that it comes out and the more that our world changes, you know, they've kept the hemp plant in the back. They made it seem like it was this big, bad plant. It was all illegal. It was all a drug plant.
Mm-hmm.
But no, actually, the hemp fibers and everything were making our rope for our Navy.
Well,
It was making our canvas
but they
for
knew.
the
I mean, they
sails.
yeah, but they knew. I mean, they literally had a pharmacopoeia with cannabis 100 years ago. 100 years ago, over 100
Yeah,
years.
but then big business came in
Yeah.
and
Well, DuPont.
chemistry came in, and DuPont in 1933 ended up buying nylon from the Germans.
That's wild.
And that's the DuPont family with the Hearst family really squashed the hemp plant because they wanted to promote this chemically made product of nylon.
Which is inferior. Which is actually
Yes,
inferior.
but they can make it in a lab so one company can start to control it.
Yeah, they can produce it exactly the same every time, as much as they want.
Yes. And then you come to, I come to Thailand and I'm looking at Thailand and I get off the plane and I notice that the light spectrum is completely different than like Ohio,
Oh, I
New
mean, like the
York.
sunshine. Yeah,
Yeah.
but you know what? I noticed that a big time when from Southern California, where I spent like the last decade, to coming up to here to Washington. Fuck, it's not nowhere near as bright. It was so
Well,
much brighter down in SoCal.
the light that you're getting in SoCal is more of a white to yellow light. It's missing a lot of the blue and it's missing far red.
It's super bright though.
So all the Thailand flower here looks like LED weed to me.
Looks like what?
LED weed.
Really?
It was growing under an LED
You have a lot of
light.
red there?
You don't have the far red and you don't have the blue spectrum in it.
Is it tight?
Yeah, you're getting a tighter bud, more dense, and more weight to it.
Interesting.
Where if you add that blue and more far red, it's a little bit, we'll call it maybe larfier,
Mm-hmm.
where it has a full expression.
What are they doing there? Are they mostly still doing outside there, or are they doing a lot of indoor?
They do a lot of indoor, but the flower that I enjoy here in Thailand is grown outdoor.
Outdoor.
Yes. And here you can get between, you plant in August, you hit it with some supplemental light, get some size to it. And then in September, you start to flower. October, the rains have pretty much stopped when you're starting to build bud structure. So this allows, in northern Thailand, it was allowing me to grow my Afghanis, my bigger bud plants, not more of a larvae or wispy plant where the air would just fly through it and take care of the moisture problem and you wouldn't get bud rot. We don't have a problem with powder mildew.
Is it a dry? Are you? Is it low humidity? Or
Well, no, we have a high humidity here
but no PM?
with no PM.
It's interesting.
It's only when you hit those really dry days.
But anyway, let's go back to your story. So you were saying you got the seeds, you discovered the Afghanis, and NL was working for you through Neville's guidance, and so you came back to the United States, and then you grew those out. Then you F-gen the seeds, and then what happened?
We just started building from there. And this is when I found out that, hey, these strains that I'm growing have CBDs in them. The CBDs have medical properties. And then we found out that, oh, well, this one smells like this, and this one smells like this. And that's when the flavonoids and the terpenes started coming into play. You know, this was all before we knew about mono and sesquiterpenes.
Yeah. And so you got these as seeds. So this is where I guess I'm trying to get to a connection. So you got the seeds, and you guys were growing it. I don't know who else was with you besides you, but sounds like there's more than you. But
Yes.
at some point you joined the normal group, the normal chapter that was in your area, the North Coast, right?
I joined North Coast Normal, and that's when I met my partners. I had two of them, and you know, I because of their jobs today, and one works for our government. You know, I can't come out and say anything about that.
Anybody.
Yeah, but you know, we got together and we started. Okay, you run these seeds, I run these seeds, and then at the end of the year, we'll take a clone of each of them, and we find one male that we really like. And then we cross all these other females to the male. So we were doing about 5 to 9 different strains and hitting them with one male each year that we would pick out. One year it would be the Afghani, one year it would be the Northern Lights male. The next year it was the Ortega or Durgamata. But we were kind of breeding for what we were looking for.
What were you doing with normal?
Well, with normal, oh man, that was a whole big thing. So when I joined Normal, we were a chapter of 330 people. Me and John Hartman. or John Hartman and myself, I should say, because I'll make it clear, I was the lackey. He was the person that put all the articles together. We would gather the information. We would put out pamphlets about cannabis, trying to dispel what reefer madness
So
had
basically,
been
trying to
putting on cannabis.
you're trying to undemonize it.
Yes. We were trying to get the truth out about the plant that, hey, if you smoked cannabis, it didn't make you a lunatic. It didn't make you go out and kill people.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I remember the first time I watched Reefer Madness. It's so hilarious, and I was like, people believe this, like the tomato and like killing people with smoke. Yeah, I was like, it's so outrageous.
well, I even found that here in northern Thailand, the maid came into my room and made a big stink about me having cannabis ground up on the table. You know, people are still closed-minded about cannabis. They haven't accepted that, hey, listen, yes, there is a type of cannabis that gets you high and makes you feel like you're drunk or in an altered state. But then there's also medical properties to this plant. And they don't understand that still. They still think it's the propaganda that's been spread over the decades that all cannabis is bad and anybody that uses it is a bad person.
They had about a 75 year run at giving bad information. So, you know, it went through a few generations of people.
Exactly. And it was in, you know, it wasn't until 2010 that my aunt, actually being a Army nurse, actually sat back and started reading about cannabis and said, yes, there are medical properties to this plant than just someone getting high, using it as a drug type. And that's what we tried to do with NORML, was to educate the people that, hey, yes, you know, you can use cannabis like alcohol, you know, and get that different effect from it. But there was also medical properties to the cannabis plant, besides all these industrial uses for cannabis. And back in the 90s, Jack Herrera was coming out with his book. And at that time, it was the cannabis plant was linked to, I think, 20,000 different applications.
Oh, yeah, the Emperor with No Clothes book? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it was providing fibers for rope, for clothing, and then it was being used as a supplement for food by giving amino acids and fatty acids.
Protein as well.
Proteins.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, we were just starting to learn about this, but our government and big business was trying to squash that because they knew that this plant that everybody could grow in their backyard would hurt their business.
Yeah, there was even the guy that did the I made a car, and he drove across the country, right, on the hemp fuel.
Well, in 1914, I believe, or 1916, Henry Ford came out with a hemp car.
Really?
The whole body was made out of hemp.
Oh, really?
And I've I've got a friend here in Chiang Rai that his company that he just set up because Thailand is dealing with the water waste coming down from the mines from Miramar, and it's poisoning the rivers.
Fishing,
And they're using this water to, water the crops, the corn and the rice fields, besides all the heavy metal fertilizers and pesticides that they're using to grow these. So what's happening is all this stuff is getting into the food supply. My friend has a company that basically here in Thailand, you can grow hemp 9 months out of the year. So you can get 3 harvests of hemp. 4 harvests of hemp a year here in Thailand. So what he's trying to do is work with the Thai government to go in and say, okay, for the rainy season and the part of the year where you really can't grow rice or corn, let's come in and run hemp. And by running the hemp plant is actually pulling these heavy metals and toxins out of the soil. So it's remediating the soil. But it's also giving you a sellable crop on top of this. And that crop is actually going into carbon, which is going into replacing the carbon fiber on cars today.
I found this.
So getting back to the normal thing, I started out, and in 96, I started going to festivals. I started speaking in front of groups of people, trying to educate, just like Jack Herrera was doing, but trying to dispel this myth of cannabis being this monster drug. It was no good. It had no medical value or anything like that.
This hemp car is incredible. I didn't know about this hemp car.
Yeah. And during that time, they also figured out that with the diesel engine can run on hemp seed, biodiesel from the hemp seed.
That's pretty amazing. Anyways, yeah. So go ahead.
So you have all these big companies that are trying to push their gasoline engines and their steel and everything like that, instead of a plant that can actually do all this. So to reform...
Well, also way more renewable. You can 5 crops a year,
And that's the thing. 1 acre of hemp is good for 40 acres of trees.
And it doesn't ruin the soil either,
And it takes such a long time for a tree to grow, but a hemp plant, you can get 4 harvests a year in on it in certain parts of the country, or world, I should say. With Kentucky, you have the snow, so you can't grow during that period. But during the summertime, you can get 2 crops of hemp in. In California, Southern California, you can get 4 in.
Yeah, well, we have a little bumper crop. So, yeah, it's pretty cool. I guess, like Hawaii, you can go pretty much whenever, right? They're 12-12, I guess they're good all the time, all year.
Well, San Diego is, I feel San Diego is about on line with northern Thailand. You don't really get a cold season, so the plant can still grow.
Yeah.
but you do have to be able to understand that, hey, for 6 months out of the year, you're going to have to feed it water.
Yeah, we do have you know, like a dark period though, where I think like Hawaii, I heard like has close to like what, like 13 hours of light or something year round, 12 hours.
Thailand is between that 11 and 13 hours.
It's pretty good. This it's
So
just the humidity.
You
The
know,
only thing is the humidity is like seems a little worrisome, you know.
well, yeah, and you know that's why you can't grow smokable cannabis because of the flower structure. So what you do is you take something that is more like a sativa. You've seen the plants from Afghanistan, Lebanon, places like that where there's really no bud structure to it. It looks like just little coaxes in the plant growing. Well, when you have just a plant with a whole bunch of coaxes and trichlomes together, you don't have to worry about bud rot or mold.
Well, the thing with a lot of airy weed is that it's fluffy and it burns fast, but it might taste really good and get you amazingly stoned. But burns
Well,
fast.
it has different. It's made
But
for resin
it's often very
production,
aromatic and very flavorful.
but it's mainly for resin production.
Hmm.
You know, where for us people that like to smoke cannabis, you know, we want a bigger, fuller flower. We don't want something that looks like what they call
You know,
pearls.
like the hazes were really good for us back in the day. Like me and my buddies, we always used to do like the tear throughs. So like we had like the small bowl on the bong, and it load it up for you, or you load it up and you tear it all the way through. And the hazes were always good because anybody could tear that through. Is where like sometimes the thicker stuff they would take them a couple pulls to get it through. But the airy stuff is all you know like something like White Widow or something can pull that easy, all day long. Go ahead.
Well, with those, you also get into, you know, the oils and the esters from the plant too.
Yeah, I
You
like the
know,
from Amsterdam, New Amsterdam. I like the other variation, Black Widow, which I guess is just another Shanti Baba's version, I guess, right, of White Widow. But I just really enjoyed it. It was like one of those ones where like you would smoke it and like you feel like you're like high, and like you would like come down and you get high, you feel like you're high again, and come down, feel like you're high again. It's like roller coaster weed. I liked it.
you know, and I, to tell you the truth, I'd really like to sit down and talk with Shani Baba on hours
Yeah,
because he worked underneath Neville, him and
yeah.
Arjun.
Just that was his protege, right?
Yeah. So when I went over to Amsterdam in the mid 90s, and I was talking with Neville, I was introduced to Shani Baba and Arjun. And Arjun was more standoffish. He was a rich kid to me.
I see.
Okay, and he kind of had that aura about him where Shani Baba was more approachable
I see.
in talking. So, you know, I lean more towards what Shani Baba says than Arjun says. Because I see Arjun was just, okay, I got into this. I have a whole bunch of money. And, let me hire somebody that knows more about genetics than I do to take care of the genetic side.
Did he have greenhouse at the time?
Yes, he had just bought his first shop, which was the greenhouse in the red light district.
Yeah.
It was a really small shop. But then within a couple years, he's sitting there hitting and winning high times cups. Now, like cups now today, I don't hold a lot to the cups because I feel that, the flower
how
isn't.
do you think he was winning those cups? Was he legitimately growing stuff that was that good?
I would say it was a combination between good genetics and also a lot of money.
A lot of money, a lot of advertising, no?
Yeah, because, back then you had to pay to be a judge. And you're only looking at a couple hundred judges at the time.
Texas OG has a question for you in chat. I put it on the screen.
I can't really see the screen because of the light.
He says resin head sizes can be interesting. Do you want larger resin heads or on a small surface, or a large surface with a lot of little heads?
Well, this is what I found out too, is, there's basically, when you're talking triclones, you have 4 or 5 different types of triclones. You have the bulbous, then you have the small-headed triclones, and then you have the stalk or granular triclones. Now, your stalk and granular triclones are normally, the way I see it, come from more your equilateral strains. And your bulbous triclones come from your colder regions, more Afghanistan, Pakistan, someplace where there's a dramatic temperature change.
Yeah, it has to be able to withstand it.
And those, you get more of a monoterpy, where the stalk and non-bulbous heads is where a lot of your fruit flavors and your candy flavors are coming out of.
So, you joined a normal. Did you do any of the activist stuff, or you did events?
Oh yeah, I was special events coordinator for our chapter. So my job was not only going out to the festivals and music shows and setting up a table with all the literature to try to denounce all the bad shit that Reefer Madness put on cannabis and actually put out the truth about the cannabis plant and the benefits from the plant. So my involvement was Dana Beal. In 1998, Dana Beal came out with the Million Marijuana March.
Mm-hmm.
We held that in Cleveland.
Yeah, I remember. I sure remember that.
So my job was to go to the city of Cleveland and fill out the paperwork to allow us to shut down a street or two so we could have that march in Cleveland, and to grab Public Square and set that up so we can have speakers and music there. And my chapter did this, and we also had.
When you were doing this, because that's always interesting, because at the time in the 90s I was in Seattle, and we had an event called Hemp Fest that was organized by Vivian McPeak, and The very first years we go to that, I was very scared actually that they were like going to take my picture, or I was going to get arrested or something. But it seemed like they somehow had it organized so where the cops weren't really messing with people. You know.
Well, that was one of the things is, we went and we talked to, that was part of my job, was we went and we sat down with the police and we said, hey, listen, we would like to have this event, and we also want you guys to be there as our security. So we were hiring the Cleveland Police Department to be our security. And they pretty much left us alone because, you're sitting out in the open and you want to puff at one of these and you're thinking, okay, we got all these cameras on us and stuff like that. And they just we never had a police presence. No one was getting busted. Every once in a while, there would be stupid people doing stupid things. There was no cannabis for sale at any of these events. It was just a bunch of people. And if you did smoke cannabis, you brought it from outside. You weren't like trying to swing and sell it.
It was sort of weird at the Hemp Fest several years on 420 on the main stage. They would throw joints off the stage.
Yeah, we didn't do anything like that. That we figured that was crossing the line.
Oh, this was later on, much later, meaning the decade after what you're talking.
Yeah, we kept it totally legal. We didn't give away cannabis or anything like that. We just had speakers up there and people that were affected, whether it was they went to jail because of cannabis, or they were taking it for medical reasons and how it helped them medically. Daniel Asbury was one of our speakers and someone that we helped. He was a quadriplegic in a wheelchair, and he's actually one of the people and the reason why our chapter was able to change an Ohio law, because we ended up sneaking in 1996 in a medical defense for cannabis in Ohio. It ended up being in a 1,500-page bill, and they ended up catching it, and they came to us and they said, hey, we can't let this fly. We can't give you medical yet. But what we were able to do was to say, this was 1996, because Daniel had got...
In California passed their thing already?
It was about to be passed.
Okay.
In California.
215, yeah.
They voted in November on that, I believe. Okay. So we got this to go through because we put it in this bill that was 1,500 pages, and it was only like 6 sentences, but it gave an affirmative defense for medical patients. And this turned out to be the fact that, a medical patient needed to buy their cannabis in a larger quantity.
Mm-hmm.
Because, they couldn't just go out and buy a quarter each week because it was really hard to find cannabis at that time.
Yeah.
And then we got them to understand that there's different types of cannabis for different ailments, and also different effects for different parts of the day. You don't want to be all drugged out and stoned all day. You need to live a productive life. So what this allowed us to do in the state of Ohio, as long as you were under that 100-gram limit, you could have multiple bags in one baggie. So you could have a half ounce of this, you can have a half ounce of this kind and a half ounce of this kind. And instead of getting the charges with an intent to distribute, you were just getting a possession charge. Which now, today, now that in 2018, Ohio goes medical, and then a couple years later, Ohio goes recreational, but the voters passed that for going recreational, which set up, you know, the system of how to open up dispensaries and the large grows and how to license those. So with Senate Bill 56, it comes in and it starts locking down that, hey, you are allowed to grow 12 plants, but with Senate Bill 56, you people of Ohio voted for 12 plants per person. We're now going to restrict that to 6 plants, and you can only smoke and consume on your property. You can't consume out in public. Like what we had voted for was it to be treated like alcohol. So any place you could go outside
it's essentially
and
kind
smoke.
of how it is in like a lot of states, you know.
Yes, but Ohio was set up for you should have a designated area that if you were allowed to smoke cigarettes in this one area, you could consume cannabis.
Oh, that's interesting.
And you were able to go to like music festival or music shows at Blossom outdoor music venues. And any place you were able to smoke cannabis was like you being able to go to the beer tent and grab a beer and consume that in public.
Yeah, it's
well,
not quite like that though. I've never seen
well,
it like that. Yeah,
that's the way that it was brought up in Ohio, and that's what the people of Ohio voted for. Well, the politicians decided, no, that's not right. And it's not going to be treated like alcohol. We're going to treat it completely different because Ohio Canna was a group that was started by the big businesses of cannabis in Ohio because they wanted to restrict on how you can use it, where you can use it, and where you can buy it from. So March 25th, Senate Bill 56 went into effect. So you're allowed, you're a medical state with recreational, but if you have cannabis on the front seat of your car in a mason jar or a baggie, and you have papers with you, and you get stopped for a traffic violation like speeding, and the cop sees this, they can now charge you with possession and a paraphernalia charge. And in the state of Ohio, they have this law called drug abuse charge that they can also drug abuse. It goes along with the possession and a paraphernalia charge, and it carries a 6-month suspension on your license, besides an increased penalties and fines. You know, you're not going to go to jail for it. There's no presumption of jail time or anything like that.
But because you use a drug, you get this penalty?
Yes, and they can take your license away. So if they take your license away, how are you supposed to get to work? So it causes another hardship on you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's rough.
But because it's not in a sealed dispo package and container, you're going to get charged for it. Now, the way to get around this is to have it in like a locked box, something
Yeah.
that's not easily accessible
So
from your
when I
driver's
first
seat.
for myself when I first got my medical card back then, they didn't have all the Mylars. What they were using was they would reuse old pill bottles, right? And then they would have
The
print up
pop tops.
and then they would print a label and they'd tape it on there. And they would tell us to keep our license, a copy of our license, and our medicine in our trunk.
Yes.
You know.
It's same way with Michigan. When I moved to Michigan in 2011, you know, I carried around a plastic toolbox with a padlock on it. And instead of having to put in a trunk, because we fought in Michigan about this, that, hey, because of the temperatures, it could affect the moisture content of cannabis. And it could be to the point where we kept it in our trunk, it grabbed all this moisture up, and now it's a non-usable product for a couple days until it dries out.
Motherfuckers.
So you could put it in this locked box and keep it in the back of your car.
That's hilarious.
In the back seat. But the thing of it is it had to be locked up where you just couldn't pop open the box, grab a bud out, and roll it as you're driving.
Yeah, that was the whole point. Is that they didn't want us. They wanted to make it so it was impossible for you to grab it if you were the driver.
Exactly, and I totally agree with that. You know. When you're driving, you shouldn't be smoking because, cannabis affects people different ways, especially long-term use.
There are some people that the term one-hitter quitter is that's everything that they smoke, right? Is one-hit quitter to them. And then there's
I wish I was that way.
And then there's other people like myself where it's a bottomless pit. I can just keep going.
A lot of this.
There's no such thing as too high.
No. And, for me, a lot of times I don't get high off that one or two hits because I've been smoking for 30 years. But I tell you what, I've narrowed it down to certain strains that work for me. That, hey, I'm smoking a joint. I'm gonna get halfway through it, and I can put that out and save that other half for later because I've gotten to the point where I'm going to be good for an hour and a half to 2.5 hours. But then I'm running
like some Kim D, I feel like that. Some good OG, I feel like that.
And a lot of stuff today, this fruity and candy terp stuff, I'm finding out that, okay, I'm smoking a half a joint, and within 30 to 45 minutes, I need to smoke more because it has a short time high to it.
Yeah, so I've taken a break over the past year, but I used to dab a lot, like really heavy, minimum 2 grams a day, right? And the fruit stuff for me, what I'd find is that it would taste really good, feel all right. You didn't have the super high, like when you smoke really good stuff, it's like there's a uplifting body, there's a euphoric, there's a psychedelic thing, there's a thing with sound where sound you ever listen to Dark Side of the Moon or something, and you all you hearing all the different stuff and like the harmonics and stuff. Like you don't get that off of like a lot of this fruit stuff. You know, at least I don't. And then I found that like I'm smoking it 10 minutes later.
Well, I really noticed that with friends that were dabbing, and they were like, well, we really like this lemonine, things that had citrus to them.
Well, lots of myrcene and lots of lemon, right?
Exactly. And I'm watching them, and it's like, I sit there and I roll my joint, and I'm sitting there smoking with them, and they're doing dabs, and it's like, I understand that you're doing a concentrate, so you're just grabbing basically the THC from the plant.
Well, some of it could be full spectrum, but not all of it. Not all of it. Not, there are isolates, right? But a lot of them do have, like BHO, I believe has minor cannabinoids in it too, right? But like an isolate, for instance, like THCA, like THCA diamonds, yeah, you're just that's just one particular molecule, right? And then like just diamonds and diamond sauce, a lot of it's so concentrated, you're getting 12% terpenes. That's just crazy. That's too much to me. That's where a flower, if you saw at 3%, that was insane.
So you look at the plant, and you have to understand that the plant can only hold 42 to 43% cannabinoids. So if you have 27% THC, and then you have 8% terpenes to it, how much of the rest of the plant are you really getting?
Mm.
And I think that really has a correlation with how long the high lasts. Because I'm sitting there and I'm smoking a
You're
joint.
saying that the more terpy is less potent.
Well, I'm not going to completely say that because, we haven't
There's
had
the
enough
entourage
testing
effect.
done.
Yeah, and there's an entourage effect.
You're losing the entourage effect.
Oh, you're throwing it on
You're
a
not
ratio.
exactly, So my flower that I like is anywhere from 16% to 25, 26% THC. And I find that flower normally gets me high for an hour and a half to 2.5, 3 hours. And my friend that's doing his concentrated dabs every 10 to 15 minutes is hitting that dab. And I'm like, when I hit that dab, one hit makes me feel like I smoked the whole joint right away. But
That's originally how I used to feel.
And within 15, 20, 30 minutes, that high is dissipated.
Yeah.
So for me doing dabs, it's really hard on my lungs because yes, I smoke cigarettes. That's probably one of the biggest reasons. But I've been smoking.
Those are probably 3 times the tar factor.
And I've been smoking for 30 years, but I prefer smoking a joint, and the effects that I get from smoking that joint and that right strain with that right terpene profile that, when I open up that bag, my nose says, yeah, you're going to like this. This is what we want.
On the same sort of subject right there, going back to Amsterdam, did you see them doing like the spliff thing where they're mixing the tobacco and the flour?
Oh yeah, I would totally mess people up because, like I said, I really like hash, and they'd be mixing hash with tobacco, and I'm a stupid person, so I'd grab that joint and I'd be hitting it like a joint, with hash in it, and I'd be coughing my head off because of the tobacco in it.
Oh yeah,
I would be hitting it
yeah,
wrong.
and then you probably feel dizzy and your stomach hurt.
Yeah. And I would mess them up is, in the early days, I'd go there because back here, I roll my hash in with my cannabis.
Mm-hmm.
And I would get people in Amsterdam totally sideways off of a joint. There'd be like four of us at the table. I'd be the only American, or me and my friend would be the only American. And we're sitting down talking to two or three Dutch or other European people. And they're used to smoking the hash and the cannabis with tobacco. They're not used to smoking it pure. So they were getting wasted talking to us and smoking this joint. Or they would drop out after a couple hits.
Yeah, I was at a film festival one year, and you just somehow owners just gravitate toward each other or something. Somehow I just started talking to some dude. We're just like wind up. I don't know why the situation was, but basically we were walking down the street and you smoke, I smoke, and then for some reason this guy's like, I don't know. Anyway, I wind up smoking a joint with a guy, right? Some random dude at a film festival. And he rolled a joint and he asked me if I had any weed. I had a little bit of weed. He rolled it. Wasn't really paying attention. We were walking, and we're smoking it. And he put fucking tobacco in it. I didn't realize it. And this guy was like from like a foreign country. Like he was like from like Ireland or something. And he put the tobacco in there. And I swear I got really high, but it was like I fucking felt like dizzy and my stomach started hurting. It's like this is not something
You
I was
weren't used to
expecting.
smoking tobacco. You
Yeah,
weren't a
and
tobacco smoker.
and I took a fucking huge rip off of that. And that was the problem, right? It's like
Yeah.
you probably should puff that a little softer, but since then I've done. I used to when I go visit my buddies back east. We do got the cigarillos and night owls and shit. We used to fill those with fucking shit. Same kind of idea.
But you're also getting the high from the nicotine.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what you weren't used to. That's what kind of made you feel ill.
Yeah, that's the nicotine. Yeah, that's probably what it was.
And
Yeah,
that extended high that you were getting was because you were getting a nicotine high.
I get it. So that's basically what people get every time they smoke a cigarette. So you're getting the
Mhm.
nicotine high.
Here in Thailand, they mix their weed with tobacco too.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of countries that do that. We probably don't do that in America because, like, the FTC, it's like a different, the tobacco farmers, uh, like the firearms, like that's a different thing than like cannabis and liquor. It's like the way everything's like controlled.
Here in Thailand, I see them because the Thais really don't smoke joints. They smoke bongs. And I've been trying to get them to, because, they're not using butane lighters as much, but they're using these torches for like jab rigs and things like that. And they'll sit there and they'll hold that torch
So
and
they
that
burn that
flame,
they want that whole bowl in one hit though.
and they suck it through every time. And I'm
Yeah.
trying to get them to understand that no, all you have to do is touch that flame to it and play with that carb.
You see, what they need is they all need some gravity bongs, and
Yeah.
they can and some wick, right? If they had some wick, they can just touch the wick right to it. It'll fucking work, get started. They just pull it up slowly, and it'll make a nice ember, and it'll be gone.
But I've spent years trying to tell them, hey, don't hold that butane, that torch to it or that lighter to it, because you're just sucking that stuff into your lungs and it's not good for you. The
Yeah.
flower will burn. It's dry. You know, the suction going through will keep that lit. But they want to, get it all at one time. And then they sit there and, they won't pull the slide to clear it because they've sucked everything through. And then they leave a bunch of smoke in that bong too.
Oh yeah, and that all like kind of sticks to the glass, and
Oh, it
yeah,
makes the next hit taste like shit.
yeah, popcorn and bullshit. So, did you still stick with normal, or what happened? Did you wind up leaving those guys, or what's your situation with those guys? Whatever.
Well, I ended up from 1996 to 1995. We lucked out because our normal chapter had a retail storefront. So we had like a hippie shop that we sold High Times magazines. We sold counterculture books. You could go in there and buy the Arcus or the Arcus book. You could buy Grow books. You could buy The Emperor Wears No Clothes. You could buy books about mushrooms and the beneficials of mushrooms, and then psychedelic mushrooms.
Sounds like a fucking hippie bookstore.
Yeah. We had tie-dye clothes, we had hippie dresses that you can buy, and then we also had normal t-shirts. No, we didn't do any crystals. We went as far as selling San Pedro cactuses out of the front window, though.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So for $50 at that time, you could come in and get like 1.5 foot tall San Pedro, one of the big fat ones, not really skinny. We were selling those, but it wasn't illegal to sell those.
Yeah, I had I've owned had quite a few San Pedros and Peruvian torches and different exotic cacti.
So we actually later on started selling grow equipment out of there. You can come in and buy a 1,000-watt light. We were selling Fox Farm nutrients. We were selling Rockwool grow plugs.
Tiger Bloom for you.
Yeah, you know what? When Tiger Bloom came out, I actually got a bottle of that and I used it one time and I said, no, I can taste it in my flour. So I stopped using it after one harvest, and I basically told people not to use it.
People were using too much cha-ching, and what was the other? It was like a 3-part sesame something, cha-ching, and like another one. Fuck, what the hell was that shit called?
But now we know that basically that product should have only been used for like a week or two between day 21 and day 35. You want to cut it out.
Yeah, I've known a lot of people that use the Fox Farm, but I've only used like a couple of pieces out of the lines, like the Kelp You, Kelp Me. I used to like that. It's a kelp product. And then,
I just used the part A and B.
Yeah, I used to use their kelp product, and then they had a worm casting type thing that was in a bottle. I forget what it was called.
Advanced Hydroponics ended up buying this product. It was called Nitron Plus. And it literally had 15 out of 16 micronutrients that cannabis needed. The only problem was you didn't need a lot of this in a bucket of water because that's how highly concentrated it was. But you would add it into the bucket after you poured your water, because I made a mistake like the first couple times until I figured out what was happening. Was it had activated nitrogen in it, and when water was poured into a bucket with pressure, that you would get this foam up in the bucket from this product activating with water. This product was $15 a bottle. A year and a half later, that's when I noticed that all of a sudden this $105 bottle, this $80 bottle, this $110 bottle had one of the products that was in that Nitron Plus. So they bought this one company out for this one product, and that's what ended up being all these different bottles you needed, instead of just it being in one bottle.
So, like, you're talking like,
it had all the micronutrients.
Yeah. So, like, they had the one with the spider on the fucking bottle or the packaging. They had the voodoo juice.
Yeah.
And they had the, what was the other fucking one they had? They had 3 of them. It's been a long time since I've seen those bottles.
But yeah, you know, all of a sudden you've got another 7 or 8 bottles on the shelf, and I go look at the bottles, and it's like, okay, this was in Nitron Plus, this was in Nitron Plus, this was in Nitron Plus, and now you're spending $700-800 on something you were spending $15 on a quart, and a quart would last you a year and a half.
Yeah, I'm looking right now. So let's see. Oh yeah. So voodoo juice and piranha and tarantula. They're expensive. Expensive.
Yeah.
I remember I worked at a shop and we sold those things. And Advanced had a money back guarantee. Have a money back guarantee, right? And they'd be these fucking scandalous motherfuckers out in the desert. They'd buy the big fucking giant bottles, right? Like $500 or some crazy amount. They get it down to the last inch and then bring it back and say, I didn't like it. And they go next door and buy it to a shop next door, and just we give them their money back. We go to the shop next door and buy the same thing. They fucking cycle through. And there was nothing we could do because Advance told us we had to give them their money back.
I would have never ran a business like that. You buy a product and, you know.
Choice. I was told to do it.
Well.
And so then we'd have these bottles. So we'd have these bottles, all these fucking bottles, big ass fucking 5-gallon jugs or 6-gallon jugs, where the fuck they were, in the back in the warehouse. And, you know, it's Palm Springs, so it's fucking 120 degrees in fucking summer, right? You know, good how microbes smell at 120 degrees, old bottles. You know, you got 20, 30, 40 of these fucking bottles. And I have to call up Advance and try to warranty them and give them the fucking, so I can send them back and we can get our money back. And it's like, oh man, that was such a fucking fiasco.
It's kind of like a couple years ago, I heard that fish shit was actually exploding in the cans.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so to be on the shelf at a grocery store and it would explode overnight or something because of the temperature and pressure change.
Wow, I bet that didn't smell good.
No, man. You know, I used a fish emulsion. It was, I forget the name of it. Alaskan brand. Fish, and I used that one time. My house stunk for 6 weeks. I never used it again after that first time because it was just like, oh my God, I can't have my neighbors smelling this.
That's crazy that it comes in a
Pressurized can.
comes in an aluminum can.
Yeah, that can be pressurized because you've got microbes on the inside, and when it heats up and it gets cold and it heats up again, the the microbes start to activate.
Oh, that's wild. Yeah, I was just looking at this picture.
So yeah,
In a bottle.
kind of getting back to normal. I know we're stepping around because, like I said, I'm on medication. I'm really high.
Oh,
But, you know, getting back to normal from 96 to December of 99, we had our offices in a storefront. So it was called Cannabis Connections. It was supposed to be a coffee shop in the beginning, but then we turned it into like a hippie shop and never expanded on it because John, our president, was going through dialysis 3 times a week. He was really sick. So, you know, and there was only 2 of us there at the end. In the beginning, I was there with 2 other people that volunteered all the time to help out in the store. But then eventually, you know, because of school and life, that, you know, they went their ways and I stayed on. And it got to the point after a couple years, a couple years, it was like, hey, you know, you're giving me a little bit to come and help out every day because at that time I'm like 5 days a week over at the chapter and I'm running the storefront itself while John is allowed to, you know, write these articles and do the research, set up petitions. He would come up with the idea, hey, we're going to, you know, 30 million marijuana march. I'll get all this together, but you have to go get the permits and everything. So you take care of that, I'll take care of this type deal. So I allowed him to do all of that and do the political side. Why I took care of the store and talked to the customers that came in because we were selling drug testing products at that time. And, you know, all the head shops were too, but because they sold pipes and papers and bongs, they weren't openly able to say the word cannabis. Mm-hmm. And since we didn't sell bongs and pipes, you know, we did sell rolling papers and the city let us get away with that, but we didn't sell any type of smoking paraphernalia.
We were still we were still calling it tomatoes at the Hydro store in California in 2017.
Yeah. So, you know, we weren't selling any smoking paraphernalia and we were able to openly speak about cannabis and other drugs because we were a nonprofit organization.
I see.
And that allowed us to, you know, advertise that we have these products and we can actually talk to you about them. So that actually drove a lot of business to us. And I spent, you know, in the beginning, I was sitting there and maybe having $15, $20 a day. And then I'd have a good day of like $80. And by late 97, going into 98, we were up to $400, $500 a day in drug testing products because the word had got out that, hey, you could go to the normal chapter. They have cheaper prices than the head shops, and they'll actually talk to you openly about what types of drug you're trying to get past because they've got different products and they want to make sure that you understand that, hey, with that, you need to stop 3 or 4 days, then take this product the day of your test, and it give you a window of so many hours to give your sample. Where when you walked into the head shop, you just had to say, I need that product, and couldn't talk about it. So we took that money from all that drug testing, and that's what funded like the rallies and everything, because we paid for them. To join the chapter was $15. And for $15, you got a normal t-shirt. Now at the time, National Normal only had one design of a t-shirt out, and it was usually sold out. So we were able to make up these normal t-shirts. And we designed our own logo. And of course, you know, Keith just passed it through because we were the only chapter, you know, doing anything like this at the time. So we had pretty much free reign at what we ever wanted to put normal on and put it out there as a product, because he knew that the money not only was going to the chapter, but from our festivals every year, we made a pretty good amount of money. And we would send, you know, routinely $10,000 and $25,000. The $25,000 was to start the Normal Foundation with St. Pierre, so they could fight it politically, because Normal, the organization, could not get politically involved. But, you know, we throw 2 festivals a year, and we take a good portion of the profits from that, and we send that to Normal, National Normal. So every year we were sending $20,000 to $30,000 to National Normal. And by me going out to music shows, we had friends that played in, you know, a Grateful Dead and a Pink Floyd cover band. So they allowed us at Normal to set up at their shows in the back. And I found a distributor for t-shirts, and they had closeouts, and we buy the t-shirts off the closeouts for Pink Floyd and Grateful Dead, take them to the Grateful Dead cover band or Pink Floyd cover band, set up the Normal table with all the literature and everything like that, and try to get members. But we would also be able to sell those t-shirts. So that gave us extra income. By the time I left in 1996 in December, we were up to 4,300 members, and we were putting out a quarterly newsletter of 46 pages. That newsletter continued until John actually got really sick in 2004 and had to close the chapter.
So did you join a different one, or?
No, I just dropped out and started making money from growing cannabis.
Were they connected? Were the chapters like you guys, say Michigan or other Indiana or?
Well, that was funny. Okay, you know, we could probably sit down and talk about just the normal part of it for hours on hours. But we had gotten to the point, I had built up the chapter, we had good money coming in. You know, one of our festivals made like $50,000. And when you have an influx of
definitely prevalent, in the festivals that I went to, those guys were definitely had a name, you know, you knew they were there.
Yeah. Well, we ended up selling out one year at a festival, and we ended up packing like 5,000 people into this place that should have only had like 2,000 people. So we made a whole bunch of money that year, and that allowed us to do a lot of stuff. We expanded the shop. The shop was getting good customers. We actually had, I think at one time we had 6 different designs of normal t-shirts. We had a hoodie. We had canned cozies with normal on it. I took the idea of the Interstate 420 sign, and we made the baseball hats out of hemp, and we used hemp string in the printing of the Interstate 420 sign with normal on it. And now I can finally say these years later that there is one t-shirt out there that has a big bud going, a branch going across it. It's a yellow and red with green printed shirt. And the coffee mugs and the hoodies actually had pictures of my first harvest on them.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I couldn't say that for years and years and years because it was like, okay, I just put my, first harvest up on a coffee mug. That's mine. And I say that to the wrong person, and they're coming to my house.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I actually just recently lost those pictures when my parents' house got robbed when I moved over here because I put some stuff in their house, and that was one of the things they took was my locked toolbox, which had a bunch of weed in it and concert tickets and certain sports ticket stubs and tickets from, like perfect games and record-breaking touchdown game for Emmitt Smith and, historic items.
Yeah.
That I really wanted to keep while I was here in Thailand. But yeah, I lost a lot of that stuff, and I lost a lot to coming back from California in 2010 at a bad bust in Illinois, which gave me my felony for cannabis. Up until that time, even working with normal and growing while I was working with normal, I never had a problem. I had possession tickets. Yeah, we all get possession charges every once in a while, but that's just a ticket. You go in and you pay it. It's not like getting caught with 1,987 grams of stem leaf and debris and a half ounce of flour, so you're over 2,000 grams, which puts you in an attempted to distribute charge. When an eighth in Illinois is a felony to begin with.
Yeah.
It cost me a lot of money because I also had some other things on me. Not bad drugs, but good drugs. The kind that like 5 pieces of it get you like 5 years mandatory.
You're talking about stuff that has like comes on printed paper.
Yeah, psychedelics, and they caught me with that, and that was my personal supply. And I only had 1.5 ounces of dried flour on me, but the people that I thought were my friends that packed my truck threw in 2 garbage bags that had root balls in them with dirt attached, cut up branches, just dead material, no flour at all.
Yeah.
So I got debris, stems, and leaf material. And it put me over at 2,000. So I got the intent to distribute charge that I had to take. So I didn't get charged with the other stuff. even though the camera went out. Just as I said, I started to refuse to search. The camera went out.
What year?
2010. And I got out. They sentenced me. It took them a while to sentence me because we were fighting back and forth over it. I got sentenced 2 weeks before Illinois went medical, and they kept my seed collection. And I told the judge, you're not going to my bench. I think you should. Please give it to the state for their medical program. There's CBD plants in there and THC plants in there. So, and looking at, 10 years later now, that seed collection, that'd be $1 million seed collection, because there were packs of that 94 to 98 Sensi seed Afghani 1 in there. There were packs of Breeder Steve stuff, Spice of Life. He used to send them in a vanilla envelope with a sticker on them.
Oh, like his old, like the shishka berries?
Yeah, all that early stuff from the early 2000s, like 2001, 2002, 3, 4. All the white label stuff that Brent Jonkers was doing. That was just IBL stuff out of, it was basically the same seeds that Sensi Seeds was selling, just at a discounted price.
There used to be this one, you may know about it. Maybe you can tell me. It used to be called Casey Brains. Do you remember that one?
Yeah. He's still out there.
So is that just an Amsterdam breeder? Because I used to see...
he's still breeding today.
Really?
Yeah.
So this Casey Brains. Long time ago, I used to see that. Seeds. Oh, Casey Brains, Holland. Oh, wow. Yeah, still around.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. He was one of those people that were out there in 2002, 2003. But yeah, we had bogs, the boggleberry. The boggleberry was, that was one of my favorites. And then you had the bog saver.
Yeah, so I remember going to events back in the day, and it was like Bog and his wife, and like no one would be at their booth. It was weird. And the guy was like super, super fucking nice. Super nice dude. I'd talk to the guy for like a fucking straight hour, all kinds of
Tony at Sagarmatha is I want to say like Idaho or someplace like that. And I know a friend that's really good friends with him, but I went over and met Tony at Sagarmatha and spent some time with him talking about stuff. He had a bubbleberry. And
question from Chad as well.
When I smoked that bubbleberry, because we're smoking it out of a pipe and you only hit, just a small portion of it because you want other people to get a green hit. And you'd smell that burnt flower and it would just smell like, fresh baked blueberries. And that's what reminds me of the blueberry muffin. Yeah,
so I want to say like around 99, early 2000, there was this like blueberry muffin kind of stuff that was coming from Oregon. And we'd get it. It was common to find it around Seattle. But it was like fucking like dead on, like straight, unmistakable blueberry flavor. It was so good. I haven't quite seen that blueberry muffin strain they came out with from Humble Seeds. That was good, but that wasn't the same like this hot, fresh blueberry muffin thing.
Well, the bubbleberry that gave us that was more on the indica side. So the high lasted for like an hour and a half, 2 hours too. I mean, it made you stoned. Like, okay, that tasted really good, but I don't want to do anything for a while
So
except sit here and laugh.
the silent one's asking in chat if you know FOE20.
Yeah, Mick. That's who I'm talking about that knows Tony at Sagamartha.
Okay.
Yeah, I've hung out with Mick. He's a character and a good guy, man. He knows shit tons about genetics. He still has books and with pictures and leaves from harvests that he did of stuff back in the early 2000s. He kept all that stuff. He's got all of his IC mag posts and everything, and responses back. Nick's a really cool guy.
I don't know. I don't know if it's drama. He says, yeah, hopefully this isn't drama. He says, so you're the dude he threatened me with. You're the one who came and got him in Ohio. And then he says that he's a snitch. Avoid him. I don't know. I don't want to be part of drama.
Yeah. Well, people can say what they want, but Mick would never say that to me. But I snatched. Actually, he may be talking about OG Fast, the guy that he went there first with. Yeah. And I went down and I seen him in Springfield because it was like, hey, you're in Ohio now. I'm going to be down that way. I got to go to a little bit south of there. I want to stop by and meet you and hang out. So I was the first person in Ohio that actually showed up with like 6 different strains of weed for us to smoke and everything like that. So we hit it off really good. But he's top of the line in talking genetics. But so he would never say bad.
I don't know this guy. Who is this guy?
The guy, Mick, is AB Normal. 420. FOE20. 40.
And what is he? Is he a breeder or just a connoisseur?
Yeah. He was a breeder, a really big breeder at one time. He ran through a lot of gear. He was over in Amsterdam for a few years.
I see. Oh, Silent.
But he's really good.
Silent says that he was his partner for years. And then he says that he was abnormal. He threatened to snitch on all of us when he left Ohio. I don't know.
Well, all I know is
about this character, so I'm just reading chat.
The whole thing in Ohio, he never grew in Ohio except for a few plants in a tent. He was supposed to go there and grow, do a facility type. That's what he thought he was going there for. And this OG Fast, he may be going by a different name now, just put him off, and didn't have any work for him. He gave him a place to stay. It was a room in this house that was like packed by a hoarder in his house. He didn't have any basement to grow in or anything. And he went there on the presumption that he was going to be running a facility. They had a warehouse going. There was going to be multiple lights, 50 to 100 to 200 lights. And he was going there to do the genetics and set them up and running. And it never came to fruition. So we moved him up to Michigan. And he got hooked up with a facility up there. That didn't turn out. And now he's back at home doing basically nothing, just growing a few plants. But he's got a whole bunch of seeds to go through.
Well, who's OL?
OL, I don't know.
He says he's lucky he left. OL was going to deal with him.
Well, okay, then this person is the OG fast or related to the OG fast that I'm talking about. And you could just go ahead and mute him right off.
It says Outlaws MC.
I don't give a shit what it says.
I don't know what that is.
This is what I'm saying. This is a troll. Listen to me. Okay? I know this person. Just block him right now and we don't have to listen to his dumb shit.
All right. Anyway, go on with your story.
I'm sorry, but this guy has caused a problem in more circles than anything else. He's talked. All he does is sit in his garage, smoke cigarettes, and drink Mountain Dew and have medical problems. So, yeah, he's all a bunch of talk. And there's people that have bigger clout than me because they've stayed in the game in Ohio that have the same thought that I do on him.
Yeah, I don't even know who this person is. I've never heard of him in my life. But
yeah, so just block them.
But basically, like, the only thing what I know, like, the Amsterdam scene is the stuff I've heard about Neville and the stories with the protege, which is Shawnee Baba, which
Arjun Shanti.
Yeah, but he has like other names too. Like he's got like 5 fucking names, Well,
Shanti hooked up with Mr. Nice, which was Howard Marks. Have you ever read any of his books?
I have not. The Mr. Nice seeds. I've heard a lot of people talk shit about them, but I bought a bunch of packs of it.
Yeah,
I had good success.
Yeah,
Ortega, Black Widow. It's good.
Yeah, he was a hash smuggler back in the 60s and 70s. You should read his books. And then you read the one about the cop that went around trying to bust him.
In Amsterdam, we're talking about?
No, he was out of England and Spain, and he moved around the country. He was moving lots of hash. The speakers from The Who going out to Las Vegas and getting busted with all the hash back in like 1980 or 1970s was him.
This is not part of your story, but I just want to go a side note and tell you one of the craziest stories, things I ever heard in my life is I interviewed a guy named Joe Petrie. You know who he is?
I've talked to Joe many times, and yeah.
This motherfucker was telling me stories about smuggling bears and fucking rare fucking animals and
he would put shit like hash in the
fucking
cages.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I moved out to California in 2008, and I was really upset with my partners and everything, and I got up really early in the morning, Joe would call me every morning and talk to me because we would sit there and talk about genetics. And yeah, he is a little bit out there, and I've seen lately doing his thing, and it's like, okay, you're a completely different person than the person I was talking to in 2008 and 2009.
Yeah.
But yeah, he, the King of Nepal, he wrote that book.
Yeah.
He was in with the King of Nepal.
Two different versions of the King of Nepal, and then he's got another third book I have. That's called the 15 ounce pound, I think it's called.
Yeah.
And, the stuff that guy did, pretty fascinating adventures. That guy had a pretty fascinating life.
Yeah, but in the past, 6-7 years, he's kind of, old age takes a toll on people. Let's just leave it at that and be nice.
He moved to Oklahoma. And I haven't heard from him in the last like probably 2 or 3 years. I know he did
Yeah.
a. They did a big. I know that he had like partnered with somebody and they were making a whole bunch of seeds to release. Um, a
Well,
lot of
he's still
people.
got it, still got his seeds out there, and a lot of these genetics are those original seeds from way back when. Because he actually offered me in 2009, he offered me his whole genetic library. And it wasn't that expensive. It was just I didn't have the extra cash at the time, or I would have jumped on it. Because, I really see, really in start in 2004 and 5, I seen these bottlenecks start to emerge in cannabis. And what we need to do is we need to start taking, since we can get all these seeds from around the country right now, is to gather those up and start making our new hybrids that don't have, 850 different phenotypes. You're going to get A or B
But how do you take a bottleneck hybrid that's been
because I've got friends in Afghanistan
thing
that
you got
gave
all
me a
these bottle if you were to take all just saying at least
no, the
80
thing,
percent of the seeds in America on American seed banks are fucking hybrids that share genetic common pools, right?
yeah,
There's probably only a handful of genetic pools that they share.
like 6.
Yeah, maybe like six, right? And they're all variations from like those six. It's like there's more to it than
So
those, you
so
know?
what we can do today, because my friend in Afghanistan, he's in the Afghanistan Pakistan area, sends me a catalog, and he's showing me pictures of the bud structures and what the buds look like and the plants look like. And then he's telling me this has a diesel smell, a diesel terpene, a really heavy fuel. This one has a chemical. So we have these catalogs out there giving us the building blocks that everything started on, like ChemDog. I'm sure ChemDog came from Afghanistan, Pakistan region. And it's sitting over there today in a field. Just like here in Thailand, you still have the blueberry, you have the mango, you have the lemon terps, you have the pineapple. So you take that and you cross it with that shorter flowering period time because, we're all about time and no one wants to grow 120 to 160 day plant anymore. Because why? Facilities cut them down at 58 days so they can replant at 60 just for the money.
Yeah, it's fucked.
They don't finish the
Fucked.
plants out.
That's why GMO. You'll never find a good GMO. You'll never find a good long flowering equatorial sativa in a dispensary in America because they have
It's not cost effective.
they have that fucking room planned out for the year, right? They know exactly what day they're pulling on, what day they're having their team go and pluck and put new shit in that room, what days it's being watered. They have expectancy for harvest. They know what strains are going in there. It's all fucking planned out. And if they put something in there that's fucking 10 or 11 weeks, it's going to fuck the whole cycle up. And they're not going to, yeah. Plus they don't want unknowns, right? They have these certain commercial strains that they know they're going to get a
Parameters.
yield from, and a certain terp and a certain THC profile, and that's why it's all a lemon cherry gelato now,
And
So,
that's why you can really see it in Michigan, and it showed up in Ohio, that the big businesses, because those states have home grows, they've got lobbyists in the politicians' ears trying to get these house bills and bills passed that limit home grow and medical home grow and caregivers. They want to squeeze us out. but we're the people that will actually do those, take those plants that are supposed to be done in 70, 75 days. We'll take them out and finish them. We'll put out a better product than these big commercials. That's why they don't want us around, because we still create a quasi-gray market. And that's why I still keep my Michigan caregiver card. And I have even here in Thailand. I go back and I renew it. Matter of fact, when I get home, I got to renew my card. And I use my card at a friend's address. I still carry a Michigan address. And he's allowed to grow my plants for me as a caregiver, along with his caregiver.
Can they?
Because
can they take the? So like back in Washington before recreational. Same with California actually. Is say I have a cannabis license and you have a cannabis license, and you want to designate me as your provider. So you would get a copy of your license to give to me to put on my wall. And
yeah.
as long as I had that on the wall, I could have your count plus my count.
In the state of Michigan, they actually send us a caregiver card for each of your patients.
Oh, really?
So not only do you have your medical card that says you're a caregiver, but it gives you those 5 other caregiver people that you give care for. So when you're transporting cannabis to them and you have a large amount in your car, you're legal, because each card has a set amount of the cannabis in your car going to those patients. So when they come in, you have a paper from the state of Michigan stating that this is patient 1, this is patient 2, this is patient 3, 4, and 5, and you have that all in the, waterproof plastic holder, and you nail that to the outside of the grow room. But, it's also there on the computer in Michigan that you are a caregiver. That's why they tried to pass a bill.
So you're saying that there's a state database that keeps track of all the patients.
Oh, yeah. And all their caregivers, because you can be your own caregiver or you can be a caregiver for other people besides yourself. So they tried to pass this bill in Michigan where they wanted to be able to put cameras in your grow room so they can keep account on how many plants you have growing. And luckily, the Michigan voters,
I don't like the eye in the room idea. That's
yeah. Well, they tried it in Michigan.
Yeah, that's such an invasion of privacy.
Yeah, and they're trying to do away with the caregivers, and they're trying to cut down on the number of plants they have and everything else. But there was 250,000 caregivers in Michigan at one time, and now there's less than 50,000 because of the prices dropped so much, because these big facilities are. If it fails medical in Michigan, it can go straight to the recreational shelf. So if they remediate it, it's just fine to sell to everybody else. It's just not fine to sell to medical. And Ohio's the same way. Their cannabis is failing tests and it's still out on the market. This is something that we have to fight, because, even if you remediate something that has mold in it, when you put a flame to it and smoke it, you're inhaling all those dead spores.
I think, so I was going to say, I don't think it's completely remediated. I fucking feel it. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's something, I feel it. There's like a sponginess. There's something to it. There's like a, yeah. When people used to use this product called Azomite, I fucking could taste that shit. I
Yeah.
not.
So what's going to happen to people in 10, 15 years from now? Because, okay, they remade that weed by sending it through, radiation, but they still inhale those spores. What type of lung infections are going to come up and lung problems are going to show up because of this?
It was Azomite.
You know,
Azo. I'm trying to think, what the hell is it? I gotta look up this product. Was it Azomite? Let me look. It was fucking from
it was a
that.
pesticide, wasn't it, or a fungicide?
Yeah, there was Azo. It wasn't minerals. It was Azo. Hang on a second. Maybe it was. Maybe it wasn't Azomite. It was Azo. Let me look this up. It was no, it wasn't. It wasn't the Azomite powder. No, it wasn't that one. That's not the product I'm thinking of. It was hang on a second. Let me look this up. Um,
But the whole thing of it is there's product out on the market
fungicide
that
AZO.
is not, should not be fit for consumable.
Azole fungicide, class of systematic chemical and inhabitable fungal growth by disrupting ergo acetal production, widely used across agriculture, horticulture. Azole. So it's in that category. But the fuck was this product? Second here, I gotta find it. They sold it at the hydro store I used to work at, and it was like, that wasn't Azomite. It was Azo. Fucking, it's been too many years. I don't spray plants with stuff. I don't use stuff like this. So I forgot. So I have to find it again.
No, I found a way to feed my plants and keep my plants really healthy, and they fight off most of the pesticides. Now, when I grow indoors, I actually use one Athena product. I use their IPM, which is, basically like peppermint and shit like that. But I spray that twice a week in my veg. My IPM game is up there. I've had spider mites before, and I never want them again.
Yeah, I've used products like that before, but for the most part, like for lots of years, I'm just doing my seed runs with my own seeds in controlled rooms, not bringing anything from outside. And then I use beneficials. I use lots of ladybugs.
Labs and hitting your plant with the correct amount of silica that it can uptake.
Too. Yeah, I use silica.
But with that and labs, you keep a healthy plant growing. And, last year I walked outside my mom's house and I went to have a cigarette on the front porch as I'm sitting there watching, taking care of my dad, and I noticed that all the flowers in the front yard and the yard has powder mildew. And I say, oh no. And I go out the back door of the garage and I look at the garden down below and the grass and everything's got powder mildew except for my 6 pot plants. They had no PM on them at all. And that's because I was able to keep a really healthy plant, I believe. Because at that time they weren't flowering and I couldn't spray. Because I don't want to spray anything with an oil on there. It'd just be soaked up by the trichomes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was scared as shit. I thought I was going to go and back and they were all going to be frosted up like all that PM out there, and I lost everything. And I go out there and there's not a speck on any of them. Man, did I dodge a bullet.
What the fuck is this shit?
But still to this day, I'm organic. I use part bottle and part organic, mainly organic. Because the bottle gives me all my micronutrients and everything the plant needs as a base. And then I just build off of that. And, I don't use it at full strength. I'm at like half strength. but I have other products that are organic that when I need that PK boost or I need some more nitrogen, it's there and it's available, but at least I have every little micronutrient that I need in that base product. So it cuts down my bottles on my shelf to like 6 that I use for veg, and then it goes up to 8 for flowering, because there's one bottle I only use for 7 to 10 days, and it's a PK boost.
Okay.
But if you run my nutrients out, you'll probably run with a potash between 24 and 32% of what's in there is potash.
Okay, so this is the product I was thinking of. It's called Azamax. This is let me see if I can share. Share window tab. So this shit, this is this is the shit that I was thinking of, not Azamite. Azamax. And people use the shit out of it, but I don't know. I felt like it changed the flavor to me, but maybe it was in my head.
Well, that was the same thing that Fox Farm, that Tiger Bloom did to me. It made everything have a certain chemical taste. And that's why I used it one time and never used it again. And when people came into the normal chapter, I said, hey, there is this product that, it makes your buds swell and everything. Supposed to bring out a terpene profile, but, I taste it in weed. One of the gardens here in Thailand was using it, and I said, oh, you use Tiger Bloom, don't you? And he goes, yeah, how do you tell? I said, I can taste it in the weed. It's in the smoke.
Yeah, well, we're talking heated. So what do you think happens when you safe until heated? It's like motherfuckers are spraying that shit on their flowers.
Yeah.
Don't tell me that shit's safe, chat. Come on now.
You shouldn't be spraying anything on a forming flower, not with trichomes popping up, because everything gets absorbed into the trichome.
Hell no. So, when you're over in the Amsterdam, did you come across skunk?
Oh, yeah. Basically, in Amsterdam, the big thing was 4-way. Yeah, but 4-way was a big thing where they actually took 4 different strains and crossed them together.
But yeah, there were ones.
There were different.
But isn't that just 2 F1s crossed? 4-way?
No, you take a plant and you cross it with this male. Then you take those 2 plants, cross it with another male, and then take the seeds from that and cross it to another 4th male. That's a 4-way.
Because I remember getting some seeds from a guy, and he had 4-way and 6-way. 6-way tie, 4-way tie.
Yeah, I never heard of 6-way. But 4-way was out of Sensi Seeds.
Well, 6-way is, I think he probably tried to, I don't know.
But, I was going over there when, NL5 was prominent. White Widow was prominent. These were all strains that were coming out. The first time I smoked lavender, it had seeds in it. because they hadn't finished out the genetics on it. Every batch would throw nanners. There was a strain out there I wish I could find today. It was called K2. It was actually called Special K, but because of the use of ketamine and it being called Special K on like dead lot, they ended up changing the name to K2. But that was a heavy indica. That was a really good smoke. I mean, that put a buzz on for
That's
like 2 to 3 hours for me.
I always thought that they named the K2 after the mountain.
No, it was renamed that from Special K.
Because they didn't want people to think it was ketamine.
Yeah, to associate it with ketamine.
But then the motherfucker.
But I remember going to Amsterdam and they had stickers that said Special K on it, and it had a cornflake box.
Yeah, he's saying chat saying K2's an old Afghani line from Nirvana.
Yeah.
Yeah, Soma's Lavender was the shit, but chat says Soma's Lavender was the shit, but it was the shit until he released a feminized version of it. Then he fucked it up, in my opinion. But the original Lavender was awesome.
I'd love to find that K2 though, and supposedly there's someone in Ohio that still has that bubbleberry from Sagamartha, and that NL2 cross from Sagamartha too. Northern Lights NL2 or NL2 Haze crosses. Yeah. Tony put out some really good work. He's a cool guy. I had to wait to the end of my trip one year because he was in Belize and he came back.
Grab another drink.
I bought peyote off of him.
In Amsterdam?
Yeah.
You did it in Amsterdam?
No, I brought it back.
Oh, wow.
Because I knew it was going to be a 3-day trip. But see, in Amsterdam, mushrooms and peyote, you know, that was all allowed to be sold. It was sold through these shops called smart shops. And that's when the first, like, synthetic stuff that I seen being sold in Amsterdam. So, you know, it made you, like, trip, but it wasn't really a mushroom or acid or anything. And then at the time, there was infused alcohol and absinthe. You could buy that right over the counter.
Absinthe? Where'd you buy absinthe at? Where'd you buy absinthe from?
In Amsterdam.
Really? Like the real deal that made you hallucinate?
The real dark green stuff, and then they had the bottles that were diluted that had, you know, they called them refined and put them in special bottles, and they weren't like really dark green. But yeah, you can go to
the spoon and light it and shit.
They put, well, the spoon, they would run the liquid over sugar.
Yeah.
And then into the glass. And then they would serve it to you that way in Amsterdam.
Yeah, there's this place in New Orleans that does that as well.
Yeah, it started to become big here in the States like 10 years ago, and then it just kind of petered out. It was like $50 a bottle in Amsterdam for that, and you ended up getting like 18 or 19 glass shots.
I think this is the dude in Texas that's chatting in the chat, which I don't have any problem with, but I think that's the dude in Texas.
Amsterdam was a place to go and like take psychedelics and try the different mushrooms also, and go through the museums, like the Van Gogh Museum.
But 313, that's like a fucking Michigan area. Is very good. I don't know. I'm confused. I don't know everybody that's in the chats anymore, but it's all good.
Yeah, at
People in
least they're
chat,
here
you're
watching and
welcome.
listening.
No, I'm not. I'm not bitching at all. I was trying to figure out who this person was. I'm like, is it this dude that's in Texas? I think it's this dude in Texas, but I don't know. I'm probably wrong because I don't know. Yeah, we'll see. Okay, I got it.
I probably, I go through the people that follow me and the people that
You
I
know what's
follow,
crazy is like
and
I took a break right for like a while from the Instagram, and I recently went on the Instagram and I'm looking in like the chats. I'm like, fuck, there's so many of these like accounts that say like they're an Instagram user, like they're no longer like fucking even on the platform. And I'm
no,
like,
they got removed.
so I don't know if they got removed or they got mad at me for some reason I don't know, or they blocked me.
No, those are the people that lost their accounts. So every like 3, 4 months, I'll lose like 20 to 30, 40 followers. And then I see them come up with a new account. There's one guy that's out of Germany. I think in the past year and a half that I've been following him, he's had to have 6 different accounts. He just replied to be a friend of mine again. But he's had 6 accounts in a year and a half because he gets censored because he shows grows, his personal grow. And he tells people how to grow.
Hmm. So
You
it's like
know, mean Gene lost his account so many
I don't know.
times.
I just
Shit,
feel like
we're
we do all this
targeted.
work to make things recreational and medical and just and
See,
like you can't
one of
actually
these,
voice our word and voice the work like art because it gets suppressed and shadow banned and deleted.
we need a platform where cannabis people can go, and we need the support of the national organizations, and we need the support of the online magazines. We need all the big people to come together and have our own platform where we can have something like a live broadcast of different people's channels talking about cannabis and not be censored for any of this. And actually people that have nutrient companies, organic nutrient companies. I make this amendment. You know, I have a worm farm, places a platform to them to go and, sell directly to us, not having to find out where they went to because they lost their page.
Yeah.
You know, they're just trying to put down the home growers. They want us to have a plant, but they want us to pay for it. And I see scheduling 3 to be a big problem. Yes, it will allow research and everything, but it also allows like pharmaceutical companies to come out and put patents on it and lock it down where, you can't make RSO or you can't have this type of flower or that type of flower because they have a patent on it. Because they sell it in a pill synthesized out of a
So
laboratory someplace.
I worked for um, I don't work there anymore. It's been years, but I worked formerly for a company, and they have a bunch of patents on transdermal with cannabis. You know, basically, using it as like a carrier to carry it into
The bloodstream.
the bloodstream. Yeah, and I feel like I feel like that's too broad of a stroke with the paintbrush to just broadly patent that, because it seems like that's something that's been done for millennium. You know,
Well, they can come in and a big company can buy up that
it is a
patent
bit,
if
and
there
it is
is one.
a big company did buy that company.
Yeah. And they're
And
just
now,
sitting on it till the laws change and they can actually really profit from it, because right now it's not that profitable. But once it goes Schedule 3 and pharmaceutical companies can make it, that means insurance companies can cover that drug and they can start prescribing it at a jacked up rate, just like they jacked up insulin. Insulin was supposed to be something to give to the people. It was a free patent basically that he made. He gave that to the people. He didn't charge for insulin. And now you're talking, your insulin for the month is
no,
outrageous from
this
what I'm
is
hearing.
okay. So, uh, what am I trying to say here? So there's a schedule. Okay. So Schedule 3 is like basically like a controlled substance, right? It's going to
Yep.
be prescribed, right? Like a prescription, right? Like you get it
Yeah,
from
you
a
can't
pharmacy.
get
You're
over
going
the
to get it
counter.
through. I'm saying you're going to get it through like a pharmacy, through that type of channel, right? And so let's go one step back from that. It has to be created. What type of money are you going to have to be a facility that is able to cultivate for Schedule 3? Like, are you going to have to be like this fucking multi-billionaire, lab, or is it going to be guys that are?
No, they'll take certain compounds and they'll break those down and make them out of the laboratory and put them in that transdermal patch so you can uptake it. It won't be from a plant.
Well, that's the thing. At that company, I made transdermal patches, right? At the company I'm talking about that has these patents. I'm not naming this company, but I'm just telling you the things that we did. And one of the things I did is like I would make isolates. I would take THC, CBD. I would blend them, right? And I made those patches. And I made the gels. I made the rubs, the massage oils. I used to make all that stuff in the lab, and I love making it. But it just really surprised me that this company was able to get such broad patents, that they're the only ones that are allowed to do this, and
Yeah.
that just blows my fucking mind. I just have to say that.
And that's going to happen with a lot of the cannabis. You're going to end up, now that they're restricting seed sales and everything like that, I bet you could watch Monsanto's come out with their own seed line. Remember, everybody fed into, what was that, Phylos.
Yeah.
And Phylos did all that collecting. Well, that
So
collecting was to be able to sell to big
so now,
corporations that want to buy
right now,
patents on those.
so speaking of Phylos, I went to their site earlier today, right? And blew my mind. I'm going to show you some stuff. It was originally, yeah, to sell to the big corporations. Like when you originally, a couple years ago, would go to Phylos when they started offering seeds, you had to buy like a shitload, right? Now, look at this. You can buy for $280, right? You get 50 fucking perfect seeds that they they're guaranteed to have, this kind of, they have a COA, right? Guaranteed to have that percentages of everything, right? They know
Yeah.
everything. They took all of our data that we submitted. They figured out what we like. They figured out what's resistance, what the variegation was, what everything was. And look at this. They offer the best in seeds. That's what they were doing, right? I mean, let's be honest,
Exactly.
you know.
And
But
that's
yeah,
what all the people that, put into silos, filers should be able to sue for,
yeah,
because they took all of our information. They took the plants. You actually sent, people were sending in plant material.
we're sending in stems.
Yeah. So
Yep.
they had the complete makeup of that plant. And what can you do with a stem?
So I'm saying
You
they have the whole. They get the
regenerate it.
genetic table.
Yeah.
You know, they sequence it and then they know everything about it.
So if you get all these people that have these older genetics sending them in, all of a sudden they have all the building blocks.
Yep.
So that's why right now we should be going out and buying the seeds from Afghanistan, Israel, that's covering, India and the Rift Mountains and places like that, and people out of South America and people here in Thailand, and collecting these genes, because maybe the ones that they were collecting are, 15, 20, 25 years old. And the ones out today may have been cross-pollinated a little bit, or they got a different makeup to them. So they won't be able to patent these new ones. We need to hit the reset button, is what it is, and start, making hybrids from, an Afghani and using a Thai, and adding our flavors that way, because now we know what terpenes are, and people that have seed companies are telling you what the terpenes and the effects are. So you don't have to just say, oh, these are from Thai. I've got a bunch of seeds here from Thailand
These guys,
that,
look at these. These guys got it broken down. They got indoor, natural lighting, photo period, auto flower, CBD, right? Like, and it's like they
they ran all the tests.
they got everything. They got it all perfect. It's like, yeah, it just blows my mind.
Well,
I'm not
that's
saying
what
I
money
don't
can
like it.
do.
I don't like it, but there's nothing I can fucking do.
Nope.
I'm a little bitty
Just
nobody.
just keep putting out the products that you do and work with the lines you like to work with and stay in that line. People that go outside of a specialty, they get too big, and, if you stay like, hey, I work with these three males and I'm constantly getting new stuff and older stuff to work with them, then you're building
Like green
something.
diesel, like they got stuff that like they obviously know what we like. Like they've gone. That's the other thing. They know the flavors, like the cheddar cheese. It's like you so much want it, but you don't want it. You know. I didn't. I wonder. Like I wonder. I wonder if they mess with it. Like are these triploids? Like I wonder. You know. Like
Who knows at this point?
you have to wonder from these kind of guys. Anyway, I'm not
The
trying to
only
bash them, but this just seems.
only way to do is find out is buy that 250 pack of seeds, and we don't charge that much. But buy those seeds and find out if they're all, they come out the same, or
So
do you
cheddar,
get out
cheddar
of a
cheese,
10 pack,
right?
you
Cheddar
have
cheese.
8 different phenos coming out of one pack of females.
That's $370 for 50 seeds, and they're all female.
Yeah,
Which is fine for a commercial site, right? But like we talked earlier, like it's worthless for breeding for us, for me.
exactly.
You know?
They made it that way. So when you breed into it, you're not going to get, half that plant, because the male chromosomes aren't there. That's why I don't fuck with S1s. I see it in case you need to lock down certain parental stock because they're just not out there, and try to go back into it and pull those plants out. But, you better have 400 or 500 seeds to be able to get that selection that you need, because you're going to have 200 or 300 different looking plants.
Yeah, it's wild.
And what if you're really looking for is in that male chromosome that's no longer there. I ran into that with a plant that I did that to. And it was like, we did it straight up. And that's when I figured out that, oh, this clone only, I need a male plant to get the bud structure that I'm looking for. Because when I had the female and I cross it with another one, another strain, I don't get that same bud structure. The bud structure changes with that male. So the bud structure is held in the male chromosomes. The lemon G's that way. I crossed the lemon G with a I-95, I-95D. I forget the other cross to it, but you know, it was East Bay, and all the buds came out like golf ball sizes instead of these things that should have been, you know, the size of a 2-liter pop bottle and just as big.
Yeah. So like,
just as tall.
So there's a couple different males that work with, and one of the ones I worked with a lot was this gas station Bob, and pretty much, whatever you put Bob on, it'll either do two things. It'll either bring like a reddish kind of reddish purplish kind of hue, or it'll be this kind of purplish brownish kind of hue. It's also kind of really exotic looking, right? But it always has that. But it also brings tighter nugs to whatever. It doesn't matter what you put it on, right? It's just gonna it just tightens it up, and um, it also has a bit of I guess it might be an ester, but a bit of like a bright fuel, and I don't know. I really like that. But it's like dominant traits, It's like that's in the male. Like I don't.
I found that in 2004, the group of us ended up putting all these plants like the bubbleberry. We had the New York City Diesel. We had Jack Herrera. And I've worked with Jack on a few different crosses that we had because that was a good plant. And the only time I was able to change the terpene profile of that and the diesel is when I used Mr. Green Jean's Cherry Bomb 2. The male from that made everything sweet tasting. It changed the terpene profile of the Jack. It turned terpene profile of the diesel. It made it a sweet diesel. But that was a plant that I wish I could have had back.
There was a lot of stuff. I remember Jack being crossed to, and Jack was just pretty dominant, overpowering.
Yeah, exactly. Everything I crossed it to was that way. It was like, man, I thought I was going to get this out of it, but it still tastes like Jack.
To be honest, there was a point there in the mid-2000s or whatever where I said to my friends, I'm tired of fucking Jack terps. I don't want a Jack flavor. I don't want to fucking Jack. I also felt that way for Super Silver Haze. It was just so much of it being around. I just didn't want it anymore.
Yeah, but today I'd kill for a good Super Silver Haze.
Oh, I'd love it today, but I'm talking 20 years ago.
I actually sent 4 of those seeds to my friend that we did seeds back in the 90s and early 2000s. I sent him 4 of them to pop to see if he can get them to pop. They're about 25 years old now.
Yeah.
Because we used that in the Silver Pearl. There's a Silver Pearl times skunk that we did that I wish I really had back. That was the first bud that when the flower was dry, I'd crack it open over a table and it would just leave an outline of trichlomes on the table.
Oh, just dust it.
Yeah. that Afghani one.
Probably go about another 20 minutes. I'm gonna fall asleep.
All right. Well, that Afghani one from Sensi Seeds from 1994 to 1997, 98. That there, if you had that, that would be a building block today. And I think that's the plant that they would call the white, because I grew it out and I sold a friend of mine a half ounce. He went to a concert and was smoking out in the parking lot of a little show, I should say, a bar show. And the cops rolled up on him. And the cops actually took the weed, and they didn't just charge him for cannabis. They charged him later for the cannabis, but they sent it off to have it tested because it was just like that. And they thought it was coated in something like cocaine or something. Yeah. He didn't get charged for a week later until it came back from the testing lab.
Yeah, the white was really good.
It was hard to breed with, though.
I haven't seen the white in a long time. I haven't even heard anybody talk about it either.
But it's one of those it would be considered a building block today. And we have a chance to grab those once again. And like I said, start these crosses over and do them right, because now we know what the terpene profiles are. We know what the bud structure looks like because they're in a catalog and people have actually put this down and they've collected those seeds. So we can now take some of these plants and say, okay, this one's an Afghanistan, Pakistan chem, or it smells like baby poo, or just an earth terp. It's like dirt, and we have this palette that we can work with again and start everything over again. So when you go to plant seeds, you don't end up with white seeds and immature seeds in your weed because it threw a nanner. We started this off growing Sensimelia. And that's what you pay the money for in seeds, is someone's work that, that's not going to happen. So many people today throw seeds together and you end up with nanners popping out. Oh, well, it's okay because it's an immature seed. No, it's not. It popped when I smoked it in my joint. And it ruined the whole joint, the flavor of it. That's unacceptable. We shouldn't be able to say, oh, it's acceptable to grow that plant. That's what happens. No, that's bad genetics. Oops.
So, do you see any really old stuff in Thailand? Like old?
Yeah.
You still see?
There's a guy here that has he's got strains from the 90s and early 2000s.
That are in living form.
Yeah. He's actually showed pictures of the old seed packs, and we're talking, Sensi seed packs, because they changed over the years and how they package the seeds. And, he does have those seed packs from 94 to 2000, and then they changed their seed pack in 2000 again.
Yeah, there was one that actually looked like vegetable seeds. Like the packaging, had a like a vegetable seed kind of packaging.
It was a paper pack with seeds in it.
Yeah, a paper pack with seeds in it.
Yeah, those were all over Amsterdam because they had them hanging on racks.
I had a pack of that at one point, but it's too old to grow. Didn't work.
the early Sensi seed packs were just a cellophane with a card, and the bottom of the card had a cutout, a half moon, and that's where the seeds were. Supposedly, you could see them in the pack, but they would spread out every once in a while. But you
There's a
flip
guy
the pack,
also.
they would all come down.
There was also the guy. Oh, it's a guy that would put them in the cassettes. And he had like the M series and what was the heck? The purple and white logo. What the heck were those guys? They're really good in Amsterdam. M something and like. Oh my gosh. Dude in chat will probably know. Fucking really good.
Well, I used to get seeds from Sensi Seed. I would pay the extra money for the stealth shipping. So I would get a foam core picture of a soccer team.
Friesland Orange. They had like Creek.
So you would peel the picture of the soccer team off, and behind there would be a cardboard, name, the thing that came in the seed pack, and it would be taped to the foam core. You pull that off, and the seeds were in the foam core. You can get like 5 or 6 different packs in one of those pictures. Or they sent like a scroll down scroll, a cloth scroll of like, a soccer team and their schedule, and the plastic piece that held the string where you would hold it onto the wall. The string would only be in like a ½ inch, and there'd be a plastic piece, glued in there, and your seed packets would be rolled up in there. This was in the 90s. They were doing it that way.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I don't know why my brain's
all the packs that I paid that extra money for always made it through.
Yeah, I paid the extra money. I give you a fucking hairbrush. You get a fucking random picture frame or fucking dog toy or some fucking random shit. Krell's Hayes. What the hell was this guy's name? He made like Krell's Hayes or some shit. It's bothering me now. Hang on a second here. Krell.
Yeah, I have a hard time remembering people's names of seed companies from 20, 25 years ago.
Super Sativa Seed Club. Those guys.
Okay.
It was bugging me. I had to figure out how to find that fucking shit. But they had really good shit back in the day. And they had their weird names. They had many. It was good stuff. They had they're over there.
Weird names.
But like Krell's Hayes and let's see here. Sativa Seed Club.
Come on, there's 16, 20,000 different names for cannabis now. Some of these names are outrageous.
Yeah, this was like these guys had Keys Old School Haze, Prima Hollandica, Black Lebanon, Sweet Bourbon Kush. But those aren't the things I remember them for. What I remember them for is their old like Dutch line, the old like. I guess it was they were selling. It says they were blending stuff from Sam the Skunk Man, so I don't know.
Yeah, they were doing that with Neville. Neville was one of the buyers in that, but they were before. Neville didn't open up Sensi Seed Bank until what? Early 90s? And before, I think he was connected with these guys.
Yeah, it says
But they
found.
were they were buying the same parental stock from Skunk Man.
It says found in Amsterdam by Karel Schackelfelt. Yeah, I don't know.
But it came out in like the 80s. It was before Sensi Seed came out. And that's where you get, things like M10, because they didn't give them names. That was M10 is what the catalog number was on
Yeah,
it.
that's Sativa Seed Club, like the M10. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That's the guys I'm
So
talking about.
they came out in like, I think 94, 95, or even earlier than that, maybe a year.
Yeah.
And then Neville didn't come out until like the 90s, early 90s, I believe, when him and Ben Drunkers got together. That'd be a cool person to interview. Ben Drunkers.
Is
We
he still
talked to him
alive?
about the hemp. Yeah, he's someplace east of here or west of Thailand. He's not down in Malaysia.
Huh.
But yeah, he's enjoying life here in Asia. And he just did an interview with somebody too. So he's still doing interviews.
Yeah, well, those old Super Sativa Seed those things were good. Corral ran.
Yeah. But we have a chance now to get those genetics and do it again. So we can actually have that stuff. It may have changed a little bit, but, that's going to happen because it was 20, 30, 40 years ago. And these are out in the natural. And now with the internet out there, we have a chance to have, mini Sam the Skunk Mans. Now you can go pick your stuff out of the catalog in the terpene profile and the bud structure, because it may be that bud structure that you want, or that terpene profile and that high, but it's not the right bud structure. But you look at the next page and there's one that's exactly what you want. We've got a chance for that. Does it throw out a larvae bud? Does it throw out a dense bud? Are they really small buds? Are they big buds? We have pictures now to be able to put that stuff together. And we need to take a hold of it. But hey, I'm out of drink and everything, and I've got really dry mouth with a fan blowing
really
on me and everything.
It's 3 a.m. here almost.
Yep. I appreciate this.
Yeah.
I'm sorry if I was out there a little bit on certain things or I spaced something, because like I said, I am back on pain medication and I haven't been on pain medication for a while, so I'm kind of leaky.
No, it's all good. Thanks for coming on and sharing your story. Because like I said, there's a few different shows that we've been guests on together, but we were just talking about whatever the hell they were talking about at the time. So we never really covered your story. So.
Yeah, and I've got an opportunity. I sent you the emails from the owner of Skunk Magazine, and we couldn't get together because she was going through a lot of stuff this past month, but they want to do an article on me because of my involvement. Because we did change that state law in Ohio, where you could have 8 different baggies as long as it didn't equal over 100 grams, and you could have it in one baggie. and not get a intent to distribute charge. It just came out as a regular possession charge. So that saved a lot of people from going to jail for a long time.
Yeah.
No. And like I said, I was only a small part of it, because what I did for the chapter, being the front person that greeted everybody, that did all the folding and all the mailings, as far as putting the addresses on them and getting the bulk mailing out to shops and other chapters, and then doing all the special events, I didn't get really politically involved. I wasn't able to go down to Columbus like I freed John up to do. So, he was the front guy out there in the public and out there in the political part, talking to the congressmen and representatives and things like that. But I allowed him to have that time to do that. And we actually did some tremendous things. I wish, we didn't have the falling out. But like I said, he was going through some medical problems. They had denied him. He was the third time he went in and was prepped in the operating room to get a new kidney. And they came in and said, "Oh, we can't give this to you because we found cannabis in your system." They did that to him 3 times. And I think that's what really set it off, and he went kind of the way he did to me. But, if things would have been different, man, there's no telling what we could have done with that chapter. Because we had 2 other sub-chapters. The normal chapter in Athens, Ohio at the university didn't want anything to do with us. They didn't want to join forces with us at all. And that's when we were putting out a 56-page or 46-page newsletter 4 times a year. We had 4,300 members, but they wanted to be their own special thing. And I think I know why now, but I'm not going to say it out here.
Yeah. Let's not be too controversial.
Exactly. I just want to leave it at that, but I think now I understand why they didn't want to join with us, and it's sad.
I want to know what's going to fucking happen in November with our seed situation.
I think it's going to come down to state by state are going to have to make up their own laws on seed sales.
Yeah, it's fine. But the thing is like, what about, look how many seed banks have a fucking, like, you go seeds, whatever. I don't want to mention any name banks, but whatever seed bank you want to go to, right? You can name it in your brain. I don't want to name it because I don't want to get deep fucking whatever, but they all pretty much accept credit cards now. They all pretty much accept credit cards, and a lot of them accept crypto, right? And so that's going to be shut down, I imagine. Maybe not the crypto, but the credit card for sure, right?
Okay, this happened before, and now it's just exotic bird seed is what's being sold.
Well, it's not the same though, because the Farm Bill pretty much made it like wide open. You could send it, like people were sending THCA flower in the mail. It's all good, right? But because all these like gas stations want to sell their little vape pens and shit, Delta 8 pens, right? I think that's what fucking changed the laws, to be honest.
Well, I really think there should be a study done on that vaping. Is that vaping really safe? Are you getting aluminum or some type of metal through there? Is that vapor actually going into your lung as a liquid? once it
especially
gets to your lung.
the really cheap atomizers that
Yeah,
come out of China. Like, do you really think that that's all titanium? I don't think so.
exactly. That's why I say our cannabis needs to be tested
And then
too.
what
You
is the
know,
what's in that oil? What is the quality of that oil? What
what is the oil makeup?
like they don't test for enough shit. Like it's like a farm, like like it's like a fucked up situation. It's like a farm knows that they test for chemical A, B, and C, so they don't use chemical A, B, and C. They use chemicals that people never fucking heard of, that they know they're not testing,
Exactly.
you know. And it's like, why are you using a copper fungicide on a fucking cannabis?
That's why I smoke joints. That's a nice pure way, and I don't have to vape it or anything like that. Besides that, vaping to me, I seem to hit things a little bit too hard.
So this is the thing about the
It's
vaping thing.
stupid.
Vaporizer thing was first coming out. Um, they had this thing that basically was like this egg shaped thing, right? And it had a glass rod, and then the glass rod had like where you put the flour in, and there was like a whip, they called it, right? And it was like you would kind of taste it, a little bit of flour, but you for the most part it was like a real vapor, right? And it's like the pins, that's like almost like straight smoke. It's not vapor, So it's like, I don't know. Is it the? And I think it's a different thing.
Well, like the volcanoes. My friend got a volcano in like 1998,
Yeah, I
and
used
I
to
went
build
over.
those big
I
old
went
pack.
over and I hit it, and he says, "Man, this is the greatest thing in the world." And I hit it, and it's like all I'm getting is THC. I'm not getting the full effect of the plant that I really want. So it was giving me a total different high.
What I liked about the volcano though is that you could fill the whole bag up with smoke, and if it took you 5 minutes, it still tasted good.
Yeah, because it was capped. No air was getting in there.
Yeah, that's what I liked about that thing. I liked the volcano. I thought that was a great device. I thought that was one of the best devices actually.
Yeah, my friend loved it. It just didn't give me the hit that I needed, the effects from the cannabis that I needed because, like I said, I take it for medical pain.
Stoner Roots says vaping hurts my lungs. I have to smoke after vaping in order to breathe again and get relief.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was just too light of a high for me. It was a different high, period. And my friend's one of those that's really, he's a really, really smart person. So I see why he likes getting that high because, he really likes sativas, soaring high sativas, the ones that like make you paranoid. We did 120-day Cali Mist one time.
Cali Mist.
Yep.
I haven't heard that name in a while. That's an old school one.
Yeah, it went 120 days.
That's a long time.
Yeah, most of them took like 90 to 100 days.
There was another one that was like really fast. I got it from there. What the fuck was that? Fuck. Oh, there was some good stuff that was from Holland and Dutchland. They get a bad rap, but
I don't know why it should get a bad rap. A lot of that stuff is where we got our building blocks for stuff
They
today.
literally like fucking made they were like the masters of the hydroponic game, you know?
Well, they grow
Greenhouse.
tulips and
They
everything.
fucking build all the glass greenhouses. They invented that shit.
In the 90s, I went into a greenhouse and they did roses. And it was a machine that every day would start up and it would automatically cut and wrap so many roses. It was on like a conveyor belt
That's pretty awesome.
going through the greenhouse. But yeah, they really advanced cannabis, you know. They brought hydroponic into it. They showed us that, hey, there's an easier way and a quicker way of doing this. And really indoor, you know, brought in the indoor lights and which ones to use. So why don't we do this another night?
Yeah.
Maybe when I'm stateside.
Yeah, it'd probably be better because then it could be an hours where I'm a little bit more awake.
Yeah, and it'd be hours that I'm not like sitting out in the hottest part of the day.
Yeah, it's
It was 97 when I started this.
Fahrenheit. Yeah,
Yeah,
and then you got humidity too, right?
yeah, and
Well,
it's
it looks
still
like,
97.
and you're like, what? Are you? What? You're not at ground level. You're like high up in the air a bit, right?
Yeah, I'm on rooftop. That's why I came over to this place. I can actually see it from my hotel room over here.
In the big glass building.
Yeah, the one that says Continent up at the top. It's
I can't
the
see the name.
blackish gray. Yes, this blackish gray one in front of that big mirrored one. It overlooks the Soak BTS. It's a 5-star hotel that's not 5-star priced, and it's right next to the MRT and the BTS, so I can get to any place in Bangkok from here. Besides that, I don't think I'm going to be paying for my hotel anyways.
Big city looks quite a bit different from the Chiang Rai, huh?
Oh yeah, going from 70,000 people to 24 million, 25 million. You know, where you could actually walk downstairs at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning and have a choice of like 6, 7, 8 different places to eat within 200 meters.
Yeah. Well, you probably get a lot of street food right there, right? It's pretty good.
Yeah. So that's what I've been eating for lunch. You know, I get 6 chicken skewers and 2 bags of sticky rice for 110 baht.
What's that?
So it's like $3.60.
$3.60.
Yeah.
And they make it right
But
in front of you.
yeah, that's hot off the grill.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So you get to see what you're eating. It's not mystery. It's so much mystery.
Yeah. Now, if I got that in Chiang Rai, it would probably be $2.50.
No tourist fee.
Well, yeah, it's where I'm at, but cost of living here is more expensive than Chiang Rai.
Yeah.
You know, I end up paying between $1 and $2 for my meals extra here in Chiang Rai than I would in Bangkok than I would in Chiang Rai. But it's all right because, you know, If I go to Burger King back home, I'm spending $12 to $16.
We sent you a payout, $4.32. That sucks. So I sold something on eBay. It was like $25, but by the time the shipping and all that shit, I got $4.32. They're telling me for all the
Wow.
fees and shipping and stuff.
I did eBay really heavy in like 2000, 2001, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I was up to like 8,500 feedback. And I probably, well, yeah, I took about $100,000 from cannabis and put it through like sports cards and stuff like that.
Yeah, I probably should have sold all my sports cards when I still had them on there. That would have been good. I used to have all those
Well,
89, 89 Upper Deck Griffies and
yeah, well, if you had like the junk wax from like 87, 88, 89, that skybox and the Fleer metal, the insert cards of some of those are outrageous. I mean, these were cards that we thought were junk that were like $4 to $6 inserts are now worth, $1,500, $3,000, $6,000.
that's crazy.
Yeah, because we'll talk about that another night. The cards that I sold to move over to Thailand, because my parents told me, no, you can't put those cards here at the house. We don't have any room. So I sold them all.
I had the Dennis
Just
Rodman
the,
Dick card. I don't know if you know about that one.
yeah,
I had that card.
I had a big Rubbermaid tub, not one of the 18-gallon tubs, one of the bigger ones. I had one of those full of unopened boxes, including a box of 88, 89 Fleer basketball that was graded.
1996, 95, 96 Upper Deck SP number 22. Yeah, Dennis Rodman.
So that basketball box, I remember having a price tag of $550 on it.
Yeah,
It's worth $15,000 today.
that's insane.
So I had a bunch of the Bowman Chrome and the Tops Chrome and things like that, and SP Upper Deck football boxes. I had
It's like
unopened boxes of like the 898 where you would get the Peyton Manning and the Eli. Not Eli, but who was the other? Brady. They were in there.
It's like Magic the Gathering, like the original series, like incredible amount of money it's worth. And it's like I was buying those cards, and they were new and playing with them, and I didn't know they were going to be worth like that kind of crazy money.
I could have bought the first. We were buying because I had the comic book store. We were buying those at $55 a box, coming straight out of Japan. And my friend had to take 20 cases every time they called because he went over to do a toy show, and then he found these guys and he made a deal with them. Yeah, he gave him a whole bunch of, because he's from Cincinnati, and Kenner's action figures were made in Cincinnati, and he got into the warehouse, so he had all these like lightsabers and Go-Wists for Star Wars. He had cases of them, brand new. So he traded them all this Star Wars stuff when Star Wars was really popping off in the late 90s. That's how we got all those Pokemon, those first editions. One of those cases today is like $600,000.
That's insane. That's crazy.
Yeah, dude.
It's amazing.
So,
But anyway, yeah, I'm gonna
all
get
right,
to
Floyd.
sleep. It was good talking to
Thank you
you.
again.
Yeah, it was good talking to you, and thanks to everybody that's in chat. You have a good night.
Peace.